W239BF Rochester. The sports leader. 95.7 FM and AM 950. The Fan, Rochester.
Always live on the free Odyssey app.
The Sports Bar with Danger and Battaglia.
And you can doubt the Chiefs. You can dislike the Chiefs. You can disrespect the Chiefs. You're going to have to deal with the Chiefs being the AFC champions for the fourth time in 5 seasons. The Chiefs have the Lamar Hunt Trophy, and they're taking it to Vegas for Super Bowl 58.
Touchdown! San Francisco! And the 49ers are going to the Super Bowl.
Mike Danger.
I'm curious as to who you think is going to hoist the Lombardi. Who's winning the Super Bowl? What's your prediction?
Gene Battaglia.
If the Bills are going to make a change, I'd rather have them make it sooner than later. What are the odds that there's going to be a shakeup?
The Bills made interim OC Joe Brady their full-time offensive coordinator.
Who would be Buffalo's quarterbacks coach? Because that would seemingly be a position that still needs to be filled.
So Eric Washington is moving to Chicago for a promotion. We all want to see Bobby Babbitt retained in Buffalo.
95.7 FM and AM 950 The Fan, Rochester.
Oh no, how you're doing. I'm feeling a little worse for the wear. The day after Championship Sunday, we welcome you into the Sports Bar. It's Rochester's only local sports talk show. We're glad you're with us. Danger and Battaglia. Appreciate you listening along at 95.7 FM, AM 950, the free-to-download Odyssey app. Our video stream is not worth checking out today because both Gene and I are disheveled messes.
I'm not even hiding it. I'm just wearing the ski cap today.
We are
not shaven.
We are. If you're anything like us, you maybe overdid it a little bit last night. But why not? It's Championship Sunday after all. We got a lot to talk about today. The video stream is up for you at The Fan Rochester on YouTube, also streaming on Twitch at The Fan Rochester. You can even get us on your smart device when you ask it to play. 95.7 The Fan. I'm Mike Danger. Over there, that's Gene Battaglia.
Yeah, we have just one game left. We have now 13 days to talk about that one game and a lot of takeaways from yesterday. And if I could keep this close to home, the Bills would have beaten Baltimore. Like you look at that, and if you are trying to be positive about where the Buffalo Bills are, where they may be headed, they were right in it with Kansas City right to the end. Danger. Now, whether they win the Super Bowl or not, maybe that's a bad matchup for Buffalo, San Francisco. But I'm watching this yesterday thinking, oh, gosh, this is exactly what we thought could have happened to Baltimore. The mistakes from Lamar. Why did they get away from the run game? I thought watching that yesterday shouldn't have been a surprise that Kansas City did what they did.
Yeah, to beat Kansas City for most of this dynasty of theirs, you have to play an almost perfect game. And you can't allow yourself the kind of mistakes that Baltimore had in order to get by them. I thought it was interesting. You mentioned the play calling. I don't understand for the life of me what Baltimore was doing with their play calling in that game. You had Gus Edwards rip off a 15-yard run, and the rest of the afternoon was Lamar throwing the ball. I was like, guys, run the football. You can run the football against Kansas City's defense. It's one of the storylines that's going to make the Super Bowl intriguing. Can Kansas City stop that run game, that power run game with McCaffrey in San Francisco in less than 2 weeks? But Lamar, when frustrated or confused, is very beatable. Very athletic, obviously, and I think sometimes that arrogance, that athletic arrogance, makes you believe you can do things that you really can't do, like throw into triple coverage.
Wait, if Josh Allen did that, what would we be saying today?
We'd be killing him.
Yeah, we'd be killing him. We're kind of nitpicky, like, okay, you should have checked down the Diggs, and that's going to be the play that's haunting, but it's not like the intention of throwing to Shakir in the end zone is a bad decision. No. It's not the best decision. No, Lamar was making some bad decisions yesterday. That coupled with, gosh, I love the Jarius Sneed. Maybe that's one thing Kansas City has, like 2 stud corners.
Yeah.
The Bills have capable corners. No, to make a play like that, stripping Flowers right at the goal line.
Well, I would say that for the Bills being close, yes, you could have said you can say that the Bills could have beaten Baltimore if Baltimore has that kind of game and the Bills play to their standard. But the thing that I might push back a little bit on is when you're watching those games yesterday, it's just a level of talent that you want the Bills to employ, right? The Bills need an Amon-Ra St. Brown. When you watch Amon-Ra St. Brown, don't you feel like you're watching prime Diggs? Even we're the same number and everything. Like I watch St. Brown, I'm like, God, he's good. He looks like what we want Diggs to look like, or what Diggs used to look like.
Yeah. Oh, and forget Jamison Williams they have, who can kind of rip that off.
That was amazing.
Yeah, Detroit has this. They had a very nice draft. They really did. We were all making fun. What are you that running back you took in the first round? All that being said, I mean, that still wasn't enough. But I still think danger, like I go back to what Tim Graham told us. Like, what is it going to take for Buffalo to get over the hump? It's actually just a little bit of luck.
Yeah, maybe.
That's all it is.
Maybe. And speaking of luck, I mean, it felt like that game, the NFC Championship game, turned on a play that you probably will never see again. An unduplicatable play, a play that you could try to duplicate 100,000 times and maybe get it once, and that was the touchdown pass, to Ayuk, the alley-oop, if you will, bouncing off of a guy's face mask. I mean, it was just fantastic. And if you're not a football fan and you're watching. And I'm saying this from firsthand experience. My daughter is not a football fan, but she, went to her first Bills game this year with me, and we had a blast. And so she's got a little bit more of an interest in it now. And even she was kind of like into it in that second game, the comeback and everything that was going on. And I was like, now you get it. Now you see why we're so passionate about this, why we love this, because the impossible happens with some regularity. And that play was impossible. And it helps spark that comeback. And all week long, I'm sure we'll be talking plenty about the decisions made by Dan Campbell in that moment. I'll say this. Dan Campbell's not going to change who he is. Generally speaking, most people don't change who they truly are. They have their beliefs, they have their convictions. They believe that what they do and how they've done it gets them to where they are. So why would they change who they are? And Dan Campbell has been that way. He's been that way his entire career. He's been that way. He was that way as a coach. He saw firsthand when he was in New Orleans how teams couldn't react to the aggressive nature, Sean Payton going for it on fourth down. And so he's just employed that as part of his strategy. It's who he is. We knew he was aggressive coming in. We clowned on the guy. We thought this guy's great. He's our official head coach because he says things that no other coach does. And I love that we have Dan Campbell in the league, but I hate that he's being criticized for being who he is. It might have cost them the game, but it also is what got them to that point in the first place.
Yeah, it's the analytics, and I trust Chris Trapasso. They're basically even. Like, okay, go for it on fourth down, or do you take the 3 points? And what would be the percentage? Okay, they're basically the same. There's no guarantee that you would actually kick the darn thing through the upright. So I hear what you're saying, but, and I go back to Blake Snell. Blake Snell, who's Blake Snell? He's pitching for the Rays, and he's twirling a one-hitter. And it's in the 6th inning, and it's a tie game, and out comes the manager. And, like, what are you doing? Well, the book says, bring in the reliever. Well, dude, that reliever was doing appearances against the Orioles and against the Twins and against teams that were not as capable. So in the moment, I do think you have to kind of pivot. I do think you have to. It's not a one-size-fits-all kind of thing. That's the part I have a problem. I appreciate the attitude he had, but you take that and you go up by 3 scores on the road, that's all. And the second the game was tied, you knew San Francisco was winning that game.
For sure. I think that there's a combination of art and science that needs to go into it when you're making those decisions. The analytics can certainly help aid in your decision-making process, but I just have a feeling Dan Campbell's going based on gut. I mean, even at the end of the game, when you're in a goal line situation and you bring in David Montgomery with 3 timeouts and you decide to run David Montgomery and you use a timeout there, which essentially means you're banking on an onside kick. If you execute that play, nobody's questioning it. They couldn't execute it. And Again, you're going to ask Dan Campbell to change who he is. Did it cost them the game? Maybe. But if you make that play, if Montgomery does get into the end zone, we're having a different conversation today about the Detroit Lions. And the whole point of us having that conversation is because Dan Campbell was who he was throughout the course of this season.
Yeah, I don't want to kill him for those decisions because it's ironic. We don't like coaches who punt in plus territory and it's 4th and 3, and clearly you should see that you should go for it. So here he is doing that. It just
and what if he makes it and they still lose? What if he kicks the field goal and they still lose? We're calling him a coward for not going for it, so he can't win. I mean, if they go up 3 scores and they still lose that game, and he settled for field goals. You can't settle for field goals. San Francisco was having their way against your defense, you coward. You can't kick field goals there. You got to go for it. Can't win. Don't change who you are, Dan Campbell. I don't know that they're going to be what they were this year ever again. I mean, what a ride for Lions fans, and maybe they're back. I mean, Green Bay is certainly emerging and could be a threat to them in the North. But a little bit of luck goes into it as well, I think, and they were fairly lucky this season that they were healthy for a good part of the season.
But that offensive talent still is young. Laporta will be in year 2. Yeah. Gibbs will be in year 2.
Yeah.
Jamison Williams is this burgeoning receiver. And then, of course, you've got St. Brown.
Jared Goff didn't cost you that game.
No, the kid dropping on the 3rd down. Like, you got to make that play.
Yep.
It's you got to catch that, or his 4th down. You got to catch that ball.
We've got a great show lined up for you. We'll talk some Buffalo Bills later on this afternoon with Ryan Talbot, NewYorkUpstate.com, stopping by the sports bar. We'll get his thoughts on some of the news from this weekend. The Buffalo Bills will be moving forward with Joe Brady as their offensive coordinator. The interim tag has been stripped off. And Eric Washington, assistant coach and defensive line coach, I should say, on his way to be the defensive coordinator in Chicago.
I want to get Ryan's thoughts because Joe Brady kind of came in and everybody was under the gun, and it was coming off a really, really bad loss, and you were getting the Jets, and they're the Jets, so you really didn't have to do all that much. But you all of a sudden had this explosive game, which didn't win down in Philadelphia. My question to Ryan is going to be, okay, in what ways might this offense actually look better? How can you improve on this? Or, I mean, because this is what a lot of Bills fans would fear. Is this going to be Sean McDermott kind of putting? No, he said no, this isn't what he wants to do at the end of the season press conference, but you always revert to your true self. I'm wondering if this becomes a little more conservative around Josh Allen.
Yeah, when you look at the statistics of the Buffalo Bills offensively with Ken Dorsey and with Joe Brady, they're kind of the same. I mean, the only really, this is when you look at the numbers versus eye test, right? Analytics versus eye test. Your eyes tell you that offense looks more efficient with Joe Brady. They're running the ball better. James Cook is more involved. Josh Allen is more involved in the run game. Yet statistically, the output is pretty much the same on average per game as far as yards, points, etc. So we'll talk to Talbot about what the future of the Buffalo Bills offense and defense, now with Washington off to Chicago, might look like. Talbot joins us at 4:25.
Yeah, and if you're new to the show, you, Danger, are a Bears fan. You must be very, very excited.
Well, look, who can say, and nobody knows. By the way, this note crossed my feed before we jumped on the air, and I know that in the next couple of weeks with Detroit being out, we're going to be talking a lot of Ben Johnson and where he might land, and I think Washington is probably like the suitable place where you think he would land. Do you know who Ben Johnson cut his teeth working under?
No idea.
You don't know because nobody wants to say it. Adam Gase. Good luck with that, right? Like who can say? Who can say? Like he might be the next coming of Lombardi. We wouldn't know because he's been an offensive coordinator for a couple seasons with Detroit, and now he might get his first crack.
Wow!
But he learned under that guy. He learned under Adam Gase.
Adam Gase. So I'm just went to Google to figure out, okay, is he actually working now? And the pictures that come up from that introductory press conference, we don't look at that enough.
The crazy eyes.
Oh my gosh, what was he on that day?
Smelling salts before the press conference. That's a strong move. Maybe he was doing that. I don't know.
He's been out of football since 2020. That's it.
Not doing anything.
No, one of our favorites.
Yeah.
I would give the man a job, somebody, please. Yeah, to your point, all these coordinators get recycled. It blows my mind that since the start of the 2022 season, every team has changed their offensive coordinator. So you may love Joe Brady right now, but there's going to be a week where you might be, I'm going to call in the Danger and Battaglia. I want to change a coordinator. Like, this is every fan base known. Okay, that literally, like, it is a job that burns brightly and then it ends really quickly for all these guys.
Yeah, and speaking of Dorsey, he ends up in Cleveland as their new offensive coordinator. Well, that's Kevin Stefanski's offense, so I don't know how involved he is as far as, like, is he calling plays? I don't know that he's calling plays as much as he's just, coordinating the offense, which seemed like he struggled to do while he was in Buffalo.
Yeah, I could imagine. I don't know, like, if a coordinator has to, interview also with the owner too, but the fact that he played in Cleveland, and I know what this is all about. So good that Ken Dorsey got another opportunity. And yeah, you want to talk about how quickly things change. I mean, it's the first day in October, the Bills putting up 42 points on Miami, and everybody is all smiles. And 6 weeks later, Dorsey's fired. So things changed very quickly in this league.
Ryan Hickey is a voice you hear on CBS Sports Radio here on The Fan. You hear him was part of the JR Sport Brief right after us here on the Sports Bar, and hear him on weekends as well. He'll be making his inaugural visit into the Sports Bar coming up here in about 10 minutes or so.
Yeah, I want to talk to Ryan, and you're going to hear him a lot now on weekends, too. So with the new lineup here, so maybe you've heard of him being referred to as Hot Take Hickey or Hick at Night. Sometimes it goes well. They can't use Hick at Night if the show's going to be at 2 o'clock on a Saturday afternoon. I want to caution everybody because maybe you're like, oh, my gosh, Chiefs, 49ers. Folks, this is going to be a great game. And I hear you today, maybe, but we're going to talk about this. It's the last one. I think this is going to be a great Super Bowl. And we're going to talk to some national people, get their perspectives on it. And right now, we can talk to Ryan about this. It seems like people are already kind of jumping to the end here of the Chiefs. You brought up the D word earlier, dynasty. I've seen takes today that Andy Reid now is one of the greatest coaches of all time. And Patrick Mahomes, let's compare Patrick Mahomes to Tom Brady. And, hey, if you get to 4 and 5 years, these are the conversations you can now have.
It's all deserved. And I'll slap the dynasty label on them. Who in the West has even come close to knocking them down a peg? Who in the AFC, save for Cincinnati, in the last 5 years? Come on. No, this is a dynasty, and it's centered around a really, really good head coach and an exceptional quarterback. He's probably the best quarterback to ever play the game when it's all said and done. You can say that right now based on what we've seen up to this point. What are we debating here? If he wins the Super Bowl, again, he's going to win more Super Bowls. We can agree on that, right?
You took away his best wide receiver, and they won a Super Bowl, and they're on the verge of doing it again here.
Somebody should maybe cover Travis Kelce. I don't know. I mean, almost always it seems like he's what. Now, the touchdown pass yesterday, I thought Hamilton had pretty good coverage on. That was just an exceptional pass. But you take, some of the other 10 or 11 receptions or whatever it was, kind of wide open. Maybe account for that guy.
Well,
try to take him away.
Here's my take. It's probably going to be unpopular. Look, Travis, I'm hoping your girlfriend flies from Japan, is at the Super Bowl, and you win the game. You can win America's heart forever. Get on one knee, propose, then announce your retirement. This is like you with Rodgers all these years. Like, that's how things are going to change. Like, hey, what more do you want to accomplish?
Careful
Go
what you
live your
wish
life.
for, man. We thought the same thing with Tyreek Hill, and all they did was win the Super Bowl the year they moved on from Tyreek Hill. They can move on. Travis Kelce can retire, hang it up, and what are they going to do? They're going to be fine. They're going to reload, and they're going to be fine because you got that guy. You got Mahomes. Mahomes is the guy that I'd be like. Mahomes, if he wanted to hang it up, that would be something that moves the needle.
Rashee Rice, 2nd-round pick last year. No, I know it's not apples to apples, but like if you're thinking, oh, I can't believe the Bills aren't taking a receiver in the 1st round. All right, there's talent there in the 2nd round too. And
what round was Pacheco taken?
7th.
That's right. Good players. Find good players. And when you look at the teams that are remaining, the 4 teams from this week, like I was saying, the Bills have talent, but you see the talent on just when you see Penei Sewell doing what he does on the line, you're like, poof, there's nobody in Buffalo's roster that does that. I mean, the guys that come close to doing that, it's not.
He should. He's a top 10 pick, and you hit that. Yeah,
really, really good. You got that was a gift for Detroit. Or you see Trent Williams. I mean, he's still playing at a high level for the Niners. When you see some of the defensive play and the corners and the safeties, and my goodness, and Kyle Hamilton for the Ravens. He's such a good player.
He's coming on the safety blitz. Man, can we get one of those in Buffalo next year?
Yeah, that's kind of what I'm worried about with the Bills. Like, fundamentally, they'll be there. They'll be competitive. There's just a little bit of a drop-off in talent when you look at the upper echelon of teams in the NFL and where the Bills are. I mean, if their level is a 1, then the Bills are a 1A. They're right there, you're right, but there is a drop-off. There is a slight drop-off in talent from the teams that are remaining and what Buffalo has, and you need those guys. You need to hit on a Kyer Elam. You need to hit on a Kyer. You need to hit on Ed Oliver.
That's going to be the torturous thing. The Kansas City in that draft gets McDuffie. And how long we knew they were going to draft corner. I'm like, oh, okay, we like Elam. And no, they're not all the same. They're not all interchangeable.
Right. All right, let's get to Hot Take Hickey. Ryan Hickey, you hear him on CBS Sports Radio as part of the JR Sport Brief after the sports bar every night at 6 o'clock. And also weekends here on The Fan Rochester. Joining us next, you can pull up a stool anytime on the Good Smoke Barbecue and Pub Wingman line. That's 866-4FAN, 866-4326.
You're listening to the Sports Bar with Danger and Battaglia on 95.7 FM. Update.
Buffalo Bills need a new defensive line coach. Eric Washington gets a promotion. He's the new defensive coordinator in Chicago. Meanwhile, Joe Brady, the interim tag is removed. He's the offensive coordinator now in Buffalo. Chris Brown on One Bills Live offering his thoughts.
We saw some changes to Buffalo's offense. The Bills ran the ball more. They increased their time of possession. Josh ran more and threw fewer interceptions. Question now, though, who will be Buffalo's quarterback's coach? Because that would seemingly be a position that still needs to be filled.
We'll talk some football coming up next. Ryan Hickey, CBS Sports Radio, joining us here in the Sports Bar. Ameryk's next in action against Syracuse coming up on Wednesday. Sports is brought to you by GetMyPerks.com. Today, get half off to Eaglevale. Plan your spring golfing right now at a discount thanks to GetMyPerks.com. Gene Battaglin, the sports leader, 95.7 FM and AM 950, The Fan, Rochester.
The beer is cold and the wings are hot. You're in the Sports Bar with Danger and Battaglia on the Sports Leader, 95.7 FM and AM 950 The Fan, Rochester.
You don't take it for granted either. You never know how many you're going to get to, if you're going to get to any. And so it truly is special. Just to do it with these guys after what we've been through all season long, guys coming together, it really is special. But I told them, the job's not done. Our job now is to prepare ourselves to play a good football team in the Super Bowl and try to get that ring.
It's Patrick Mahomes. Guy's a killer. As the Chiefs advance, it's another Super Bowl. It's the Niners. We welcome in Ryan Hickey. You can hear him on CBS Sports Radio. Hot Take Hickey. What was the most surprising thing, your biggest takeaway, your biggest surprise from Championship Sunday? Ryan, welcome into the Sports Bar.
Thank you for having me, fellas. Appreciate it. The biggest surprise is the man we just heard coming back there, Patrick Mahomes, going back to the Super Bowl. I really thought this was the year. This was the year they're going to get got. They had real problems at receiver, offensive line. Travis Kelce, at least in the regular season, took a step back, and you look at now, looking back the path, I know the Dolphins were fraudulent. You're playing in minus 30 degrees, so okay, maybe they didn't have a chance there, but on the road against the Bills, on the road against the Ravens, someone had to knock them off, and for the fourth time in 5 years, the fact that they're back in the Super Bowl, I can't believe it. It's honestly, as an AFC fan, it's frustrating that this was the year they're the most vulnerable, yet here they are back in the big game.
Yeah, it's interesting. Ryan, I think that now they've entered kind of the Patriots territory, meaning like we're going to make all these comparisons. And also, you didn't want to pick against Tom Brady whenever there was a playoff game. Are we at that point here with Patrick Mahomes? Because I think it's interesting. I don't know if you follow kind of the betting lines or whatever, but it started out, favored, I believe, 2.5 for the Niners, and that has swayed a couple points now in the favor of the Chiefs.
I think you're 100% right, the Patriots. It's at that point where you can't bet against them. It's just like, even yesterday, look how well the Ravens have played throughout the year. It's like there's no way they're going to lose at home to the Chiefs team. And I think now with the scare part, too, is with the Chiefs in this game and also moving forward is it's not just Mahomes. Like, it's one thing if Mahomes, had classic Mahomes games against the Bills 2 weeks ago and yesterday against the Ravens. It's like you put your hands up and, hey, we got Mahomes, right? Like, it just happens. But it's like the guys that are stepping up, the offensive, the defensive lines, last week both playing really well to seal that win. Yesterday, it's like MVS with a big clutch catch. L'Jarius Sneed making a championship play. Deion Bush coming off the bench and getting a pick in the end zone. It's like you have now guys that are, making that were neither not, main players or guys that were just making losing plays in the regular season. Now all of a sudden making championship plays. It's like with Mahomes playing just okay, like pretty good, but nothing elite the last 2 games and still winning. It's like with other guys stepping up, I'm with you. I think at this point, I think you'd be foolish right now to pick anyone but the Chiefs in the playoffs. We're at that point.
So, Ryan, is it as simple for the Chiefs as this is a team that out of necessity needed to hit on their draft picks and hit on a lot of their draft picks and now have this young group of confident players in the league knowing that they can win this thing any given year because of who their quarterback is and if as long as they play to the level of their potential?
I think so. And that also, too, I think Andy Reid deserves a lot of credit because, like you mentioned with draft picks, like Rashee Rice, like you go in and it's like, okay, you have a rookie wide receiver that's probably going to be your number one guy. Like, you can't expect a lot from him. And, again, he's making some big-time catches in some big-time moments. I think that is obviously the belief in Mahomes. and a season-long worth of growth. But I think the coaching staff, too, deserves a lot of credit. And as long as Andy Reid is there, like you said, like you could feel it. It's crazy to say, but you could feel really good about now drafting rookies and having young players in big spots and feel confident they're going to come through. Mahomes gives you that confidence, and now I think the coaching staff, too, it may not look pretty in the regular season. I think the Patriots point you brought up before, the comparison is now spot on because, I mean, every year, right, it felt like we're talking about this is the year. This is the year it's done. This is the year that now someone else is going to win the AFC. And then come late January, it's the Patriots, holding the trophy yet again, winning the conference. They're at the same point, and now in large part because they get contributions from guys left and right that you don't expect. And it's someone new every single week. It's a championship culture, and it's as long as Reid and Mahomes are there, it's bleak right now in the AFC.
Yeah, I mean, we know all too well here, Ryan, up in Western New York. I'm just wondering what the talk is in Baltimore today because, well, your defense did what they were supposed to do. I mean, Kansas City, 17 points. If you hold a team to 17 points, you're going to win the majority of games in the league. But I'm just looking at the box score here. Gus Edwards, 3 carries. Justice Hill, 3 carries. I mean, did they not watch the film of Buffalo running pretty successfully against Kansas City? How much blame do you put on the Ravens for that game plan?
Oh, a ton. It was awful. Now, like, Lamar played bad himself, but you just highlighted. Like, you can't end a game at home against the Chiefs when you are the number 1 rushing offense in the league and have your rushing attempts doubled up by a team with Patrick Mahomes. Like, they had 32 rush attempts, the Chiefs did, compared to just 16 for the Ravens. And you look at yards per carry, the Chiefs only ran the ball 2.8 yards per carry. It's not like they ran the ball efficiently. They just, ran it enough. And the Ravens, like, you point out the Gus Edwards, Justice Hill, 3 carries apiece. Lamar had 8 himself, but it's like they ran for almost 6 yards a pop. So it's not like the run game got stuffed and it's, oh, wow, we're down 21-0. We got to just abandon ship and now just try to, throw to come back. I mean, they were down by 10 points the most during this game. But you would have thought in the second quarter they were down by 100. That game plan was confounding. Todd Monken deserves a lot of blame for that. And same with John Harbaugh. Like, that team, I don't know about for you guys, but for me watching yesterday, like, they looked panicked. Like, they looked like a team that was rattled, and, like, early on, the Chiefs got in their heads, and it's almost like as soon as they went down and scored their opening touchdown, it's like, oh, boy, we're screwed here. And the play calling and the execution on offense kind of reflected that.
Yeah, they lost their composure a little bit. I put that on the head coach for sure. I also think that maybe the book on Lamar is confuse and rattle. I think that if you're a defensive coordinator in the NFL, like a Steve Spagnuolo, I think Sean McDermott is one of these guys as well. You can confuse Lamar and further aggravate Lamar, frustrate Lamar, and get him off his game and into making decisions that no quarterback in the NFL should be making.
Absolutely, and the book is out there. It's been 6 playoff games now, and outside of the second half last week against the Texans, he's looked like how he looked mostly of yesterday. Bad, rattled, confused, panicky. I mean, you go back and watch like his first game as a rookie in the playoffs against the Chargers, like there's not much growth or improvement between that game in 2018 and what we saw yesterday. I don't know how you guys feel about this because I know that we can, get into a massive discussion about who are the elite quarterbacks in the NFL and what determines that. But at least for me, like I think part of what has to, a box you have to check if you're a true elite quarterback is playing well in the postseason. And I know Lamar's about to get a second MVP trophy, so that alone should say, oh, of course he's an elite quarterback. I can't call him that after now you see year after year in the postseason, him being one of the main reasons why the Ravens exit the postseason earlier than they should. He's been one of the biggest reasons why every year.
Yeah, we're talking to our buddy here, Ryan Hickey, Hot Take Hickey. You hear him in many different places. I'm sorry, like that just kind of stuck, Ryan. I mean, I don't know if you like that or not, but Ryan is our guest here in the Sports Bar. As we look at the NFC Championship game, Ryan, I mean, a lot of the talk today on our show, other places. Dan Campbell, what did you think of his decisions to pass up the points and go for it on 4th down?
I have no problem with it. I thought Dan Campbell was in the right. I mean, like, part of it is that's who he is, right? He was the most aggressive coach in terms of going for it on 4th down all season long. The Lions led the league in 4th down attempts. And so, like, for me at least, if that's who you are all season long, you can now in the NFC title game change your stripes. If you are aggressive and that part of that, aggressiveness has led you now to get into the NFC title game, then when you're, in the second half, minutes away from potentially going to the Super Bowl, that's not the time to change who you are. that's not the time to all of a sudden say, you know what, now we're going to get conservative. Up 14, I think it was 4th and 2, I believe. You know what, we don't usually take the field goal. Now we will. 7.5 minutes to go in the fourth quarter. We're in field goal range, 4th and 3. Yeah, we usually go for it, but now we're going to play conservative, and now we're just going to play for the tie instead of playing for the win. They have been aggressive. They always play for the win all season long. I think it got them there in the first place. And I think Dan Campbell, especially the second 4th down call, with 7.5 minutes to go in the fourth quarter, opting to go for it instead of kicking the game-tying field goal, I thought he was proven right because as soon as you don't get it, the 49ers went right down the field, no problem. Like, that defense in the second half was not getting any sort of stop. And so I think Dan was in the right of knowing I'm going to have to win this game with my offense because the 49ers, even though we did a good job in the first half of slowing them down, we can't expect to hold them to 14 or 17 points the rest of the game. We got to be out here and be aggressive. And I think, I know it's easy to criticize in hindsight because it didn't work out. If we just say in that middle of the third quarter that 4th down conversion works and that leads to a touchdown, now you're up 21, I think we're talking about a different team in the Super Bowl today.
Yeah, and I'm curious, Ryan, to get your thought on where you thought the game turned, because I don't actually think that those missed 4th down conversions by the Lions is what cost them the game. It felt like the game turned on the Gibbs fumble, but certainly on the Brendan Ayuk catch, which is something we'll probably never see in the NFL. That kind of play, when you see it happen in a game, if you're a fan of that team that it happens against, you just kind of throw your hands in the air like, oh, well, it's just not going to be our day today, I guess.
I'm with you. Like, one of those plays, it's just like dumb luck that's like, all right, this is maybe not meant to be. But like, even after that play, like, he was ruled down right at the 4.5 yard line, they still got to 3rd and goal. And so credit to the Niners for executing where the Lions could have potentially held them either out of the end zone if they went for a 4th down and didn't get it, or at least hold them to 3 and slow down some of the momentum there. I'm with you. I think the momentum changed after the Gibbs fumble. Because even though, again, now it's a 7-point game, the place is going crazy, the Lions' offense was moving the ball up and down the field. I mean, the only 2 stops they had was a punt early on in the first half, and then that, they go for it on 4th down, but they were deep in San Francisco territory. So even the one stop the Niners defense got up to that point, it's still, they moved right down the field, no problem. I think if you're Gibbs there, you don't fumble it and you hold on to it, I still think the Lions can reclaim momentum and still kind of, go on a drive to quiet the crowd. I think that fumble, especially too, first play, right away, all of a sudden just feed that crowd and that team even more. I think that's where the game was lost for Detroit.
Ryan Hickey, our guest here in the Sports Bar. So, Ryan, now we look our first look here at the Super Bowl, and gosh, we don't need to make picks right now. It's going to be kind of a journey here, but kind of your opening thoughts here. The Niners giving just 1 point here as we're 13 days away from kickoff. What's your thought here on this matchup?
I know we started this conversation by talking about how can you bet against Patrick Mahomes. You got to be an idiot to do so. With that said, maybe there's a little bit of bias here because I do have a soft spot for the 49ers. I love the way their team is constructed. I like Brock Purdy a lot. I like Kyle Shanahan a lot. So maybe this is just me as, rooting and wanting to see a good story like the 49ers come through and finally get a ring. But I do like the Niners in this game. I do think they get revenge. I liked, especially in the second half, like Kyle Shanahan has gotten a lot of flack, and rightfully so, right, for when his teams get down, all of a sudden he struggles. He sometimes struggles at adjusting his own game plan. 2 weeks in a row against the Packers last week, and then obviously yesterday down 24-7. I think you saw Kyle Shanahan finally grow and evolve and show he's not just a one-trick pony of, hey, if we get out ahead, we're good, and if we're down, we can't win and we're screwed. I do like the Niners here. I think they do throw a lot of different options against to the Chiefs. And I think unlike the Ravens, they'll stay true to who they are offensively, where they're not going to get away from the run, and they're not going to play to Kansas City's game. Like, I think that's what kind of the Ravens did. It felt like they had to try to not only just beat the Chiefs, but beat the Chiefs playing their game. The Niners, I think, are going to be a physical team. They're going to stick to who they are. Close game, but right now, at least, I do like the Niners.
Ryan, you mentioned earlier you're an AFC guy, Colts, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes, sir.
And we're in Bills country here, so I'm curious to get your thoughts on the AFC as a whole. So let's talk a little bit about what you on your national platform talk about when you're discussing the Buffalo Bills, and is it a reality that everybody now in the AFC with Mahomes being Mahomes, everybody's just playing for second place?
Unless you're the Bengals right now, which is the only team that seems to be the thorn in Mahomes and the Chiefs' side, I'm with you. Like, I don't really see how you can say otherwise. Like, it was lined up for the Bills this year. to, finally dethrone the Chiefs and knock them out of the playoffs. Obviously couldn't get it done. And again, I think the scary part is just like, you look at how the Chiefs have won. Again, they get contributions from everyone outside of just Mahomes. Mahomes and Reed get a lot of credit, but it's guys on defense. It's, receivers that, again, have made unfortunate plays before coming through. It's just like they have so many now ways to beat you. It's not just, stop Mahomes, stop Kelsey, and you're good. It's like you got to defend and beat an entire roster full of guys making championship plays. And it's like, you guys see with the Bills, and you can just go back to last week as a perfect example. They're rolling, and all of a sudden, the fourth quarter, the championship defense for the Chiefs stops the run. And all of a sudden, now things kind of put to a halt. Stephon Diggs with a big-time drop. Some pressure throws off Josh Allen for an open receiver to the end zone where it short hops, or it could have been a touchdown if it was a half second more. It's like those small things now the Chiefs are excellent at executing. And, again, outside of the Bengals, no one else in the AFC can really make those small plays to win. And it's just frustrating because now it's like you got to defend the run game for Kansas City. You got to defend, obviously, Mahomes. Now their defense is playing at a championship level and making some big-time plays. So now it's not just, we get in a shootout. Maybe our defense gets one stop and we win. Now it's, we got our hands full playing against this Chiefs defense. It is, again, outside of the Bengals right now, I think it's, unfortunately, I think you're right. I think everyone else in the AFC is playing for second.
It's interesting because it sounds as if, in order to win big against the Chiefs, you have to play small, meaning the big deep shot that they were going for late in that Bills game maybe wasn't the play. Instead, just kind of do what you would see a Joe Burrow do, which is kind of take what's there and stick to that, have the discipline to take the short stuff rather than go for the kill shot.
It's that, and even just like, as dumb as this sounds, maybe it's almost just like recognizing the moment and rising to it. Like you saw last week, for the first three quarters, that Buffalo Bills offensive line manhandled that Kansas City front and just were running at will up and down their throat. Then you look at the fourth quarter and how that that momentum turned in a close game. I think off the top of my head, it was 7 rush attempts in the fourth quarter for the Bills for 11 total yards. And obviously up to that point, they were gashing them left and right and having their way. And you just see, like, it's almost like a mentality of just like, it's the fourth quarter of a playoff game. We're now going to take our game to an even higher level and reach a point we haven't reached so far. And it feels like the Chiefs kind of always recognize that. And it's teams like the Bills, teams like the Ravens, where it's just like, I don't know if it's a mentality thing of either they're intimidated by the Chiefs or they don't recognize, like, hey, we got to take this, moment a little bit more seriously. Now it's a fourth quarter of a close game. We got to be even sharper. Like, it's not like a tangible thing you can point to, but it's like especially this postseason, you watch it. It's not like, again, Mahomes lit up any of these three teams, but they just make the small, like you said, the small plays from players not, that are household names that continue to be the difference why KC moves on and everyone else is at home.
Yeah, well, Tom Brady won a Super Bowl scoring just 13 points. You don't. There's a difference between January football and September football. Last one for me, Ryan. I'd be remiss because I've heard you talk, on CBS about the Colts, and you have some good takes. What is going on with that organization, with your owner, with the quarterback being hurt? How do you get him back in there? And we here at the Sports Bar love Isaiah McKenzie, little dirty. What happened to Isaiah McKenzie? Why was he cut, Ryan?
There is that in this day and age, right, of leaks coming out and everyone having some sort of platform to put it out there. It's a true miracle. There has been no information. Like, I will give Shane Steichen and Chris Ballard a lot of credit. Even really after what was a complete circus and clown show last year with the Colts, they have really just tightened everything up where now there's no leaks. Now nothing gets out. We had no idea who was going to be the head coach, which, that search went over for a month. And it's like there was no leaks whatsoever. You really had no idea who they liked, who they were talking to. So they have really kept everything close. I have no idea. What I can say is I know it's not criminal because at least right now nothing's been filed. I don't know if it's you break team rules. Shane Steichen's been a guy that seems like he's no nonsense, but they were cut. And a lot of the players, the next time they were available to the media, didn't really seem like they were either surprised or felt it was unfair. So we don't know what Isaiah did, but it does not seem like many people disagree with the decision. But it's very weird right now that nothing's come out. Irsay, he's a wild card to say the least. I mean, he is a fan as an owner, which sometimes is good, where money's not an object, and he's willing to make moves in order to win. Other times he puts his foot in his mouth, like we've seen. I mean, we could have a whole show just on Jim Irsay sayings that have gotten him and the Colts in trouble here. So he is who he is at this point. Getting Richardson back, I don't want to say it's unlucky, but like how he got hurt last year was a few just like he pulled up before the end zone and got concussed, like got hit the wrong way. I hope that, he learned the hard way, unfortunately, of how important it is to protect yourself, slide, go out of bounds. I mean, obviously, you guys know it's a big emphasis and a big topic with Josh Allen every single year, protecting yourself and being better. Unfortunately, Richardson had to learn it, but I hope going forward, at least he's talked. He has talked like he has learned from this and is going to actually realize how important it is to stay healthy, and maybe 3 yards of putting your shoulder into someone is not worth it because you could end the season versus just getting out of bounds or sliding and having it be 2nd and 3 versus 1st and 10. So it was a short sample size. I like what I saw. There's reason for excitement, but it's really tough to, I guess, be fully convicted when it's one full game that you saw from him so far this season.
Ryan, it's great having you on with us here in the Sports Bar. And our audience listens to the Fan throughout the course of the day. We know that we can hear you on with the JR Sport Brief. When else are you on so that we can check you out here throughout the course of the week?
Produce and work with JR Sport Brief Monday through Friday, and then now just have moved slots and out hosting at 10 p.m. Eastern and 2 a.m. on Sunday night. So we'll be there after the Super Bowl in 2 weeks and kind of every Sunday night now moving forward. That's where you can check out Hick at Night, or as a lot of fans like to say, Hot Take Hickey.
Hick at Night, Hot Take Hickey. Yeah, you answered Penn State grad as well. Brian,
right.
Really appreciate your time today. Let's do this again sometime.
Fellas, this was a lot of fun. Thanks so much for having me on.
You got it, bud. There's Ryan Hickey. We are. CBS Sports Radio. You can hear him tonight as part of the JR Sport Brief right after the Sports Bar at 6.
I had to ask the Isaiah McKenzie question.
Yeah.
That was kind of...
But it is interesting that in today's day and age, nobody is saying anything. So you just immediately, my mind goes to the worst. Like, oh, Isaiah McKenzie was caught eating, I don't know, babies. I don't know, just like doing something completely awful that if you ever found out about it, you'd be like, what is wrong with him? And what's wrong with me for even saying that or thinking that? Who knows what he did that, has everybody so like, no big deal. Or is it just that Isaiah McKenzie wasn't that big of a factor or contributor?
I don't know. Like, the speculation box. I mean, I don't know. Again, I don't know anything, but I do know in a league where there is like one non-negotiable. If you get caught betting, boom. And sometimes they take a little while to do these investigations. Again, I don't know that to be true, but that would be a scenario where you lose your job right away.
We'll get to some more Buffalo Bills talk next hour when we're joined by Ryan Talbot of NewYorkUpstate.com. He'll be stopping by the Sports Bar at 4:25. We'll dive in a little bit deeper into some of these storylines from over the weekend, specifically about the Buffalo Bills, the hiring of Joe Brady, full-time now as the offensive coordinator, Eric Washington heading to greener pastures and getting his defensive coordinator stripes back in Chicago with the Bears, and what is the future of Bobby Babich? We'll get into all of that with Ryan Talbot when he stops by the Sports Bar next hour. Next up, we'll get to some takes here in the Sports Bar.
Yeah, what the Chiefs did, okay, they haven't done it this way, but here's your trivia question here, and you don't know the answer because it's just a number. What percentage of times do you think a 3 seed reaches the Super Bowl? Way less than you might think. We'll give you that answer coming up here. And Vegas, Super Bowl, people with money and time, and what could go wrong here? I'm wondering if the NFL thought this through.
Well,
maybe.
We'll get to that. Chris, one of our regulars on Twitter /X, at the Fan Rochester. I'm just going to say it. This year's Super Bowl for me is a massive Francesa.
Oh, who cares?
Chris is in the upper echelon of Sports Bar regulars, listens every day on the Odyssey app, watches the video stream on our YouTube channel and at the Fan Rochester on Twitch. If you don't know what Chris is talking about, a giant Francesa.
Oh, who cares?
It's an homage to Mike Francesa finding out that Stan Lee died. His response?
Oh, who cares?
I have a list of things from the weekend that are giant Francesas. My weekend Francesas coming up next with I'll Drink to That. And if you watched both games yesterday, night and day in terms of, in my opinion, in terms of quality of broadcast.
And this has nothing to do with the lights accidentally going out on the on the halftime show.
No,
either.
no. This is something that's going to happen here next season. Well, it could still not happen, but it'd be unlikely. And it's wrong. It shouldn't happen this way for one specific announcer in the booth. I'll explain. We'll get to that more next with some takes on tap. I'll drink to that is on the way, and you can join us on the Good Smoke Barbecue and Pub Wingman line. That's 866-4FAN, 866-4326. Happy Super Bowl to all who celebrate from FanDuel.
Sports Update.
Some Bills coaching news from over the weekend as the team needs a new defensive line coach. Eric Washington is the new defensive coordinator in Chicago. Meanwhile, it's status quo for the offensive coordinator, Joe Brady. The interim tag taken off. Steve Tasker offers his thoughts.
We probably won't notice any huge changes as much as the players will notice. Different types of calls, different words, additions in the vocabulary, subtractions from the vocabulary, just an evolution.
We'll talk some Bills with Ryan Talbot, NewYorkUpstate.com. That's coming up later this hour here in the Sports Bar. Rochester Americans coming off a game where they scored 7 against Laval. Next up, it's Syracuse on Wednesday. Buffalo Sabres, this is their bye week coming up. Next game is February 6th. Gene Battaglia on the Sports Leader, 95.7 FM and AM 950. The Fan, Rochester.
The Sports Bar with Danger and Battaglia.
And you can doubt the Chiefs. You can dislike the Chiefs. You can disrespect the Chiefs. You're going to have to deal with the Chiefs being the AFC champions for the 4th time in 5 seasons. The Chiefs have the Lamar Hunt Trophy, and they're taking it to Vegas for Super Bowl 58.
Touchdown! San Francisco! And the 49ers are going to the Super Bowl.
Mike Danger.
I'm curious as to who you think is going to hoist the Lombardi and who's winning the Super Bowl. What's your prediction?
Gene Battaglia.
If the Bills are going to make a change, I'd rather have them make it sooner than later. What are the odds that there's going to be a shakeup?
The Bills made interim OC Joe Brady their full-time offensive coordinator.
Who will be Buffalo's quarterback's coach? Because that would seemingly be a position that still needs to be filled.
So Eric Washington is moving to Chicago for a promotion. We all want to see Bobby Babbage retained in Buffalo.
95.7 FM and AM 950 The Fan, Rochester.
Hey, this hour of the Sports Bar is brought to you by the Farmer's Dog. Fresh, human-grade dog food delivered right to your door. We'll talk to Ryan Talbot from NewYorkUpstate.com. Some Buffalo Bills talk on the way here in about 20 minutes or so. We appreciate you stopping by the Sports Bar at AM 950, 95.7 FM, the free-to-download Odyssey app, and our video streams up now on YouTube and Twitch. At The Fan Rochester is where you'll find our channels, and also on your smart device when you ask it to play 95.7 The Fan. I'm Danger. He's Battaglia.
Yeah, this take is out there, Danger, that if the Chiefs win it this year, not only is this their most impressive run to a championship, which I would agree with that, this will be the most impressive run of all time. I'm not sure if I agree with that. For example, like New England fans would say, okay, the first game, the snow game, followed by AFC Championship at Pitt, and that was a good Pitt team. And then they won as a double-digit underdog against the greatest show on turf. But make no mistake, Dolphins at Buffalo, at Baltimore, and then you're also an underdog right now against San Francisco. That would be solid as a 3 seed. And that's the difference here. 3 seeds, they don't get to a Super Bowl that often. Entering this postseason, what do you think the percentage here? Since 1990 of a 3 seed getting to the Super Bowl, 4.3% of the time. So it does not happen, and for good reason. Like, you're a 3 seed, you'd have to go to the 2 and then to the 1 if everything kind of held. Mahomes has entered the Tom Brady sphere here now. Like, you can't pick against him in the playoffs. He's at that level.
Yeah, maybe I don't pick against him, but I don't want to root for him because, we saw something out of Patrick Mahomes this year that we hadn't seen in the past. I mean, up until that Bills game, he was a fairly likable figure. Even if he ripped your heart out, even if he was a cold-blooded killer, you still had to like the guy. I thought the way he handled himself after that Bills game, he's a bitch. He's a bitch-ass bitch. I'm not going to root for that guy. I don't want to root for that guy. Knowing what we know, seeing that display, nah.
Well, he and his coach got fined. Maybe part of it, too, is just displaced anger at Kadarius Toney. All right, if you haven't heard the story, I'll just ask you the question here, and then we'll fill it in. Has Kadarius Toney played his last game in Kansas City?
Yes.
So he was on the injury report, and, he had a kid. Okay, that's great, but inactive. And then you realize, wait a second, he hasn't played since mid-December. What's going on? Apparently, I haven't seen this yet, but right now, it's one of the lead stories in the NFL that Toney has gone on a profanity laced Instagram live post telling everybody that he has been on the injury report when he's not really been injured.
Oh, boy.
And so Andy Reid was asked about this and say it's not made up, not by any means. So it's kind of a war words. I'd say this, okay, Kadarius, like if it doesn't work out for you in Kansas City with Patrick Mahomes, do you think you're going to get another chance in this league?
Especially if you're going on Instagram Live and airing out dirty laundry. No coach likes that. I'm sure Andy Reid doesn't appreciate the allegation that he's on the injury report when he's not really injured, even though it might be true. I mean, far be it from an organization to fudge an injury report from time and again.
Well, there's shades of gray here, I suppose. Like, hey, I woke up this morning. I needed a little icy hot there. Okay, that's an injury report, but I'm not really that hurt. No, we're putting it on the injury report, so there might be some of that. Hey, Kadarius, just work your way on the field, bud. Hasn't been that good. No. He was supposed to be the guy. This year's stats: 27 catches, 169 yards, 1 touchdown. Oh, by the way, you actually scored a touchdown for Detroit, too. I kind of pinned that one in the opener there.
Yeah, and we almost got that bookend bowl with Detroit. If they would have won, we would have had the same ending game for the season as we had to start the season. Yeah, I think that offsides, in the way it painted Mahomes and Reed to a point, that was enough. That we don't need this guy. We'll be fine without him.
Well, like hearing the Chiefs, play-by-play guy, what going on this big old rant, you may like, okay, whatever, congrats, yay, good for you. Nobody is like, really upset with you. I don't know.
Yeah, well, I think they're feeling what we all feel. They know that we're feeling the way that we feel, and what we feel about Kansas City is what we felt about New England. It's fatigue. It's just fan fatigue. You want to see different. You want to see a variety, and even if you're especially if you're a casual fan. Again, I'm viewing things now through the lens of my daughter, who just this season is starting to care a little bit about the NFL. And when she found out that it was the Chiefs and the Niners, and she's like, "Yeah, I don't really like that. They were just in it a couple of years." Like, we want, as a society, I think we want to see a variety. We don't necessarily want to see the steady diet of Patrick Mahomes.
It's interesting, though. It depends on the personality, because, like, if you go to some dynasties like the Chicago Bulls, ooh, yeah, like, no, when they were gone, it was like, no, give me more. So why? I don't think anybody was clamoring for variety in your 1990s NBA.
So I think that's the difference here, right? Like, Mahomes might become that, but I think the little things like the way he reacted to the Bills game are going to prevent him from being that. I mean, Jordan wasn't universally loved, and there were plenty of people. I remember plenty of people towards the end of the last dance, and the end of that Bulls dynasty, that were just like, "God, lose already." It takes somebody special to be in that rarefied air. Mahomes is there. Congratulations, you're there. Like, you, Jordan, Tiger. You just want to see somebody else win it. Like, oh, this guy again. We love it. We recognize it. We realize that we shouldn't take any of it for granted, because we don't see this kind of greatness all the time. But at the same time, we want our cake, and we want to have our cake and eat it too. We want variety.
This feels like Tom Brady and the Patriots. Like, okay, It was very nice. Wow, you won as an underdog. How about that? Wow,
what a great story.
Yeah, what a great story. And then, are we done with this? We're just looking at our watch. Can you? Oh, you're going to go somewhere else and win now. Fantastic.
Yeah, in the year of our Lord, 2034, you and I, if all things are breaking our way, we're still doing this show, and we're still talking about Mahomes and the legacy and everything that's going on. Like, these are the kind of careers that these guys can have now, the way that they're protected. And I don't know that anybody's getting by this guy. I mean, a lot can change. Your head coach can change. Maybe that makes a difference. Maybe it doesn't. But it's spectacular, and it drives me nuts. And just because of the way he acted against Buffalo, just this one time, I'm not going to root for the guy. If you're somebody who wants to root for perfection, wants to root for superstars and guys that play at that level, that's fine. But I'm not going to root for a bitch. The way he acted after that Bills game, stay down, man. I'm not going to root for you. I'll root for Brock Purdy. I'll root for the guy that nobody saw coming. The underdog.
I think we're all pulling for Brock Purdy, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Hey, Greg Olsen, right now, after watching last night's games, he's the NFL's best in-booth analyst. There's no reason other than name that Fox should bump him out of their top broadcast team. If you watched both of those games yesterday, it's obvious which network had the overall production, and to see them step backward next season, if and when they make that move official, it's just sad to me. If I'm ESPN, I'm gauging his interest in replacing Aikman. If I'm NBC, I'm asking how he'd like to work alongside Mike Tirico. He's better than Romo right now. It's a shame that someone whom you can really tell worked hard on his craft is getting the shaft only because of the brand name that is Tom Brady.
I still don't think Brady, he has the opt-out. He doesn't have to follow through with this.
He doesn't have to. It would be unlikely, though, right? I mean, like, a year away from the game, he said he was going to honor it, but if he stepped away now, wouldn't.
If he knows what really goes into this, that will give him pause. Meaning, like, you think, just kind of show up for the game. But no, you really have to watch film. You're going into each city 2 days before. You're interviewing people. You're prepping for things. And, for every, hour you put into this, it might be just for one or two nuggets. Honestly, it's a lot of work. And does Tom Brady want to go down this road? Does he love football that much? Or does he just want to be an ad here or there?
Love talking about football. I mean, that's what it really comes down to. Like, these guys, and Olsen feels like he has the ability. I know that when Romo first came out, everybody loved Romo, and Romo was great, and Romo is still reaping the benefits of coming out of the chute really, really strong. With Olsen, he's just good, and I don't think anybody has a negative or a positive opinion on him.
It's also Burkhardt, too. Burkhardt was just this kind of guy, and if you're not familiar with his story, he was literally selling cars at a dealership in New Jersey where he finally got his break for a local television show, put together a tape. All of a sudden, he's filling in and doing a little Mets action. I mean, think about that. You go from selling cars to now being the lead guy on Fox.
And if you're Fox, you go from Buck and Aikman, who everybody thought the industry standard, and I actually think you upgraded. I think Burkhardt and Olsen is a better booth than Buck and Aikman. Right now, there's a bigness to Buck and Aikman. When you hear Buck and Aikman on a call, you know it's a big game. So I'll give them that. But, man, it flowed. And I don't want to discredit Rinaldi and Aaron Andrews. They were fantastic as well. Like, they're just tight. They're well prepared, buttoned up. They know exactly what to say and how to say it. They were, by far and away, the best production yesterday was the Fox production.
There was one thing that was cringy there, and maybe it was because you didn't have Bradshaw. He was under the weather, apparently. Was not. You probably didn't even notice he wasn't on the studio team. Putting Michael Strahan handing. I thought that he just was not. That's not his strong suit.
Now, here's the thing. Like, I didn't watch any of the pregame, halftime, or postgame ceremony. I did hear Strahan on my drive home handing it out, and I thought to myself, I didn't even realize that Bradshaw was under the weather.
Yeah.
I thought to myself, this is Fox recognizing that Michael Strahan is actually a far bigger star and a bigger name than Terry Bradshaw, passing of the torch. And good for them. They should do that because Strahan is better than Bradshaw. He is a bigger name and a bigger star than old Terry Bradshaw. Sorry.
Needs a little bit of work there, though. So, yeah, I agree with you. I think Olsen, also, too, can we upgrade on the Amazon package, too? I like Herb Street, but
I think Herb Street's great.
He's going to get burned out doing both, though, right?
Oh, no. Does he have your work ethic? Because if he has your work ethic, he'll keep working.
Look, this was from the Pro Bowl a couple of years ago. You may recall this story. Saints running back Alvin Kamara got kind of a bar fight there, some legal trouble. I bring this up because that was in Las Vegas. Mike Danger, what could we be in store for next week? I don't know. It's essentially a whole week. I hope I'm wrong here, but it just seems like this is a setting and a recipe for bad decisions.
Well, the worst case scenario, I think we all know what the worst case scenario is you hear an unfortunate situation where somebody is dead, right? Like, if you grew up in our era, Biggie, Tupac, like the things that happen in, Tupac getting shot in Vegas, like all that stuff, you hope that these guys don't show up to Vegas and they're immediately targets, because let's face it, a lot of them are going to show up to Vegas and be viewed as targets.
I would have to think both teams are staying nowhere near the Strip. Like, you're staying way, way out and you're busting in, I would think. But it's your annual convention. Like, players, coaches. Everybody will show up. Agents. It's a who's who. You want to be there to be seen and see. So, and cut loose a little bit too.
Fire up my music because it's time for the weekend Francesas. Gino, are you set?
I've got my pen ready.
You ready for some notes? All right. Let's the Francesas here in the Sports Bar. The weekend Francesas. Much like Mike Francesa, who, when told that Marvel Comics Stan Lee passed away.
Oh, who cares?
Things that I'm kind of blissfully ignorant on or just really don't care. Don't really move the needle. Let's start with Luka dropping 73.
Oh, who cares?
The Mavericks will be a play-in team if they make the postseason at all.
Oh, who cares?
Bill Belichick won't coach in 2024.
Oh, who cares?
Sean Desai is not great.
Oh, who cares?
Kellen Moore is not great.
Oh, who cares?
Eric Washington is not great.
Oh, who cares?
Alex Van Pelt is not great.
Oh, who cares?
David Tapper is... No.
Oh, who cares?
6 years for Dave Canales?
Oh, who cares?
Dave Canales, who was an offensive coordinator for 1 season?
Oh, who cares?
Gino, it's got to be the neck.
Oh, who cares?
Sabres played this weekend?
Oh, who cares?
Sherrod Moore has already beaten Ohio State.
Oh, who cares?
Gino, you got to try my smoked queso.
Oh, who cares?
Fining players for using props in celebrations.
Oh, who cares?
Penalizing players for taunting.
Oh, who cares?
Super Bowl ad pre-hype.
Oh, who cares?
Kadarius Toney's future with the Chiefs.
Oh, who cares?
Frank Ragnow is a human injury designation.
Oh, who cares?
Frank Ragnow had no injury designation.
Oh, who cares?
Puberty ref.
Oh, who cares?
Travis Kelce kicking Justin Tucker's stuff in pregame.
Oh, who cares?
Maybe think about covering Travis Kelce.
Oh, who cares?
Lamar, he's in triple coverage.
Oh, who cares?
Ken Dorsey in Cleveland.
Oh, who cares?
OBJ.
Oh, who cares?
Arnold Schwarzenegger.
Oh, who cares?
Leaving 3 points on the field by going for it on 4th down.
Oh, who cares?
The alley-oop.
Oh, who cares?
I said leaving 3 points on the field by going for it on 4th down.
Oh, who cares?
Ben Johnson.
Oh, who cares?
Must win games.
Oh, who cares?
No justice for Greg Olsen.
Oh, who cares?
M&M's.
Oh, who cares?
Finally, Taylor Swift's scheduling conflicts.
Oh, who cares?
The weekend Francesas in the Sports Bar.
I'm ignorant to. Or how did Arnold make the list there?
Oh, you didn't watch any of the ads? Were you?
I should. I'm in the ad business, but I must have. This one must have escaped me.
That goes hand in hand with pre-Super Bowl ad hype. This is the week. Championship Sunday is when all the big brands that are going to invest heavily on Super Bowl Sunday are doing their teasers, their trailers for their big ads. And one of them features Arnold Schwarzenegger. And when you see him and you see who it's for, you're like, oh, look what they've done.
Oh, who cares?
Okay. Yeah, your ad is really going to overwhelm me, I'm sure.
I think we're all way past talking about the ads, but your local TV station will be surely talking about that 2 weeks from today. Let's rate the ads.
Yeah.
And what did you like? Which ones didn't you like? I'm like,
who cares?
Yeah, to me, big old Francesa. I think it's funny that Luka dropped 73 the game after some heckler called him fat.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm fat? Okay, bam.
And, by the way, let's not forget, this is a Mavericks team that did not make the postseason last year. This is a Mavericks team that's going to have to fight to not be in the play-in tournament if they make the postseason at all.
It's a Mavericks team that's no longer owned by Mark Cuban.
True. Yeah,
weird.
Luka's interesting.
Yeah.
Luka's an interesting cat. There's elements where you're like, oh, yeah, but then there's other elements like, no, he ain't the dude. Maybe he ain't the dude. Maybe he's just a nice player, but 73 points is nothing to sneeze at, not taking anything away from him. But let's see what the Mavericks do here down the stretch.
I don't think the ref was in puberty. I'm going to push back on that one.
No, that wasn't puberty ref?
I think he had a little bit of a cold there. Maybe he was nervous.
Maybe he was nervous that all the calls were going Kansas City's way. And people were kind of going into that game. Warren Sharp pointed it out. That crew
loves the road team.
Loves the road team. And it sure looked like it on Sunday. It sure looked like that trend held true. Just there's one for the analytics community. We can actually look at a referee's tendencies and use it for or against how you call your game and know in going into it, yeah, he's gonna favor Kansas City. And he did. with that crackly Peter Brady voice of his.
I had no problems with the Zay Flowers taunting penalty, though. Like, that's the move. Like, you're going to flex over somebody. Like,
I have more of a problem with him cutting up his hand, punching the bench after the fumble. I have a problem with that. That you didn't
immature.
Yeah, that
immature.
Which is, again, John Harbaugh deserves some blame here. Your team kind of became a little unraveled. They became unglued. And I know I mentioned the Travis Kelce kicking Justin Tucker stuff. You saw that, right? Kelce is there. Tucker's warming up pregame.
I thought that would have made the list there. So Tucker today says, it was just good, clean fun. Okay.
Yeah, if they were having good, clean fun, or was that them trying to already, like, we're going to get in your kitchen? Because they were in Baltimore's kitchen. Lamar Jackson throwing his helmet in frustration and disgust. They were absolutely pressing, and they came unraveled. Well, Kansas City will do that to good teams. Yeah, so there you have it. The weekend for ancestors in the sports bar. Monday tradition. Ryan Talbot, NewYorkUpstate.com.
We're going to do this Sunday. Oh,
I know.
No.
Well, we'll find some stuff. The NHL All-Star? No.
Okay, so Monday night, I'm still hungry for football on Monday nights, right? And no, do you know how many games the NHL scheduled tonight?
One
game.
One.
Like the NBA, 12 games tonight, NBA. They get it. Hey, football fans, it's been a while, but come on out and watch here. We got some good games. Knicks, Sixers, Celtics. Take your pick. One game.
Yep. Clown show. Absolute clown show.
Oh, gosh. We love hockey and do not like the NHL.
Ryan Talbot, NewYorkUpstate.com. We'll talk some Buffalo Bills. Next in the sports bar, you can join us on the Good Smoke Barbecue and Pub Wingman line. That's 866-4FAN. And if you're thinking about Valentine's Day now, you should be. It's right around the corner. Good Smoke Barbecue hosting their Valentine's Day Sweetheart Deal. That's 11:30 to 9 p.m. Wednesday, February 14th. Valentine's Day, the Sweetheart Deal available for dine-in and takeout. Treat that special person or persons in your life to a sweetheart of a deal. It includes 3 meats, 2 sides, 2 cornbread, complimentary champagne, 2 cupcakes, all for $32.99. Reservations for dine-in highly suggested at goodsmokebbq.com. Reserve online. Regular menu also available. And because Valentine's Day falls on Wacky Wing Wednesday this year, buy one, get one dine-in wings also available. Think Good Smoke for Valentine's.
You're listening to the Sports. Fan Rochester Sports Update.
Couple Bills coaching notes from over the weekend. The team in need of a new defensive line coach as Eric Washington heads to Chicago to be the Bears defensive coordinator. Joe Brady, he stays in Buffalo. The interim tag taken off. Brady is the offensive coordinator. Chris Brown offering his thoughts.
We saw some changes to Buffalo's offense. The Bills ran the ball more. They increased their time of possession. Josh ran more and threw fewer interceptions. Question now, though, who will be Buffalo's quarterbacks coach? Because that would seemingly be a position that still needs to be filled.
We'll talk some Bills. We'll ask that question to Ryan Talbot, NewYorkUpstate.com. He joins us next year in the Sports Bar. Amherst coming off a win where they scored 7 on Saturday. They're home again on Wednesday against Syracuse. The Sabres are off until February the 6th. Gene Battaglia in the Sports Leader, 95.7 FM and AM 950, The Fan, Rochester.
They've raised the bar on Rochester Sports Talk. You're in the Sports Bar with Danger and Battaglia on the Sports Leader, 95.7 FM and AM 950 The Fan, Rochester.
All right, let's get back to some Buffalo Bills talk. We got over a week now since the end of the Bills season. Lots to digest and already some moves being made. To help sort through it all, Ryan Talbot, our buddy, NewYorkUpstate.com, joining us in the Sports Bar. Ryan, Joe Brady gets the interim tag. The interim tag gets lifted from Joe Brady. Let's discuss that question that Chris Brown was asking. What about the quarterbacks coach for the Buffalo Bills? What do you think they do?
You know, that's a great question. I almost wonder if Thad Lewis was brought in here, not only for an offensive coordinator type of interview, but also a potential, maybe we can get this guy as quarterbacks coach, because right now that is his title with Tampa Bay Buccaneers, but there's going to be a new offensive coordinator there, and it very well could be that they want their own quarterbacks coach, so I could see Thad Lewis being an option there. If not, the Bills could promote from within. Shula makes a lot of sense in terms of someone that's already here, someone that could take that role on, but I think the Bills will kind of evaluate their options, and it might be a wait-and-see mode in terms of, are the Buccaneers going to retain Thad Lewis? Because I thought Lewis did a great job as quarterbacks coach and helping Baker Mayfield really rejuvenate his career this year.
So we get Brady, which is not a surprise, right? And Josh Allen gives his endorsement. This was always headed this way. I'm curious, like everybody else, Ryan. Like, now you're going to have a full off season. Now this is going to be his actual kind of playbook. Like, in what ways do you think this Bills offense will evolve under Joe Brady?
Yeah, well, so using the sample size of when he was in Carolina, I think you're going to see a lot more pre-snap motion, which is a good thing in terms of diagnosing what the defense is trying to do. I think you're going to see Josh Allen under center a little bit more. You know, he inherited this Ken Dorsey offense, and I think that he did a really nice job with it. But now he's going to add his own wrinkles in there, and those are two things that I see there. Obviously, utilizing the backs is something he made an emphasis of doing, and you look at this roster going into 2024, it's still James Cook is your lead back, and Nyheim Hines is on under contract, going into 2024. That's another really good pass-catching back that didn't necessarily fit into the offense when the Bills traded for him, but I could see him being a good fit in Joe Brady's system. They could bring back Ty Johnson if they wanted. And, obviously if they're looking for a different type of back, a power back, you can get those day 3 of the draft or UDFAs. But I think the backs are going to play a bigger role in this offense as well.
Ryan Talbot, NewYorkUpstate.com, our guest in the Sports Bar with Danger and Battaglia. On the defensive side of the ball, it's Eric Washington getting a title again, defensive coordinator of the Chicago Bears. So Sean McDermott loses his assistant coach and a guy that, actually coached the Buffalo Bills in the preseason. How much of a loss is this for McDermott's staff?
I think it's a pretty big loss because I think Sean McDermott leaned on him for ideas and leaned on him in terms of, giving him his ear when he had a question or when he had something that he wanted an opinion on. Washington's been in this league for a long time. He's been a DC before. The Bills thought highly enough of him to make him their assistant head coach. So I think it is a big loss. And you look at the defensive line this year. Ed Oliver having a career year. You have A.J. Epinesa coming up with 6.5 sacks, more passes defense than he's ever had. Leonard Floyd, 10.5 sacks. So you go across the board, I thought he did a really good job, especially in the regular season with that D-line. Now, you can criticize him for the last few years in terms of how this D-line has played in the playoffs, but I think it is a pretty decent loss for this team in terms of what he meant to Sean McDermott, the leadership, the experience. There's a lot that goes into that.
I know it's not exactly apples to apples, Ryan, but hear me out on this. He goes to Chicago, Matt Eberflus, head coach, defensive-minded head coach, defensive play caller for a good chunk of last season with the Chicago Bears. If he was that important to the Buffalo Bills, wouldn't it have just been as simple as Sean McDermott slapping a defensive coordinator tag on him and giving up those duties?
I think Sean McDermott right now had to probably decide. I mean, again, I can't even assume this because it hasn't been done yet, but I think that McDermott, though, had to make a decision. Do I want to slap that title on Washington, or do I want to give it to Bobby Babbitt, who is getting a lot of interest around this league, and rightfully so. He did a great job with the secondary when he was a coach there, and you saw the linebackers and the job they did. And, you know, I know you guys, when we've been up at training camp and we've been able to talk with Babbitt one-on-one, you see how intelligent he is, how he doesn't go into the draft process looking for a prototypical size and weight, frame, whatever for a player. He's looking in terms of, can this guy play a certain role? It doesn't matter what he looks like necessarily. And, you know, Terrell Bernard's a great example of that. He might not have that prototypical size, but he was a game changer for the Bills this year when healthy. So I don't think it was just that easy because Babbitt, I think, is in play, and I think they really would like to retain him and make him their defensive coordinator. But at the end of the day, Sean McDermott has to decide if he's willing to give up play calling duties, because if I'm Bobby Babbitt, I could go somewhere else and I really can run the show, or potentially I could stay in Buffalo and get the title, but I wouldn't be calling plays maybe.
Yeah, I mean, Ryan, you just answered all my questions there, because you know I could see him going to the Giants and the play calling ability. So, I guess the question: are we 100% sure that Sean McDermott is, like, if you want the best guys on your staff? My question is, why not kind of, at least have a baton, hand it off at some point to Bobby Babbitt? I thought, honestly, that McDermott was going to do that at some point this year, that he, with the weird timing of Leslie Frazier's departure, that was really kind of the best of the options, right? You weren't going to get a play caller coming from the outside. So your thoughts on McDermott here, and gosh, would he be best served just being the head coach and making sure that all three phases and managing that, or are you fine if he is still the play caller?
I'm fine if he still ends up being the play caller, because to his credit, I thought he got into a pretty good groove late in the season in terms of the way that he attacked Dallas's offense, for instance, and the way that he was able to hold the Chiefs to 17 points in the regular season, the 14 points of the Dolphins in Week 18 to win the division. Now, my only criticism would be you've had multiple years to make a deep run in the playoffs, and more times than not, it's been the defense under McDermott that has. I know Leslie Frazier was the play call, or was the DC for quite a few years, but he was running Sean McDermott's defense. So I wouldn't mind, or I would lean handing the reins off to someone, telling them, here's what I've seen against the Miami Dolphins, why I've had such success against him, and letting Babbitt kind of work with that, but letting him also come up with his own play calls and his own, way of doing things, because we need, the Bills need somebody that can get them over the hump defensively against the Chiefs. And you saw a great defensive effort from Baltimore yesterday that was wasted on a poor offensive effort. If the Bills could get that type of defensive effort against the Chiefs, I have no doubt in my mind they could move on to the playoffs.
Is the coaching staff shakeup done, Ryan, or can we expect that maybe there'll be another change at one of the three phases?
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if they at least tried to move on from the special teams coordinator. I thought that they were a mess all season long. This has been an area where the Bills have invested a lot of money for players, and now you're starting to see some of those original guys. Tywan Jones wasn't here this year. Tyler Matakevich is up for free agency again, and it might be a good time to just kind of turn the reins over to someone else. And there's some decent special teams coordinators out there on the market. I just don't think the Bills were good enough in that area But the longer this passes, the longer time goes on here, and there's no change, the more likely it is that they're going to stick with their current coaches. And, maybe they are just trying to get everything else aligned right now because, like you said, they're trying to fill the defensive coordinator vacancy. And then if it's Bobby Babich Jr., then they have a linebacker vacancy. They still have the D-line vacancy. Maybe, it's filling those jobs first and then maybe addressing any other internal jobs where they decide to part ways with a coach.
Ryan Talbot, you hear him on the Shout podcast. Also, you read his work, NewYorkUpstate.com, our guest here in the Sports Bar. Ryan, this is the time of year where we start to look at the draft. It is Senior Bowl week, and I got to ask you, and things can change certainly, but where do you plant your flag right now? Are you wide receiver first round? Are you defensive line first round? What would you like to see the Bills here do coming up in April?
So, I'm digging the hole, I'm planting the flag, and then I'm putting cement in. I'm going wide receiver between now and April, and I'm not getting off of that. As much as the defensive line is a need, I know defensive tackle at Oliver is the only one under contract. You could look at some of these safeties in the draft. It's wide receiver for me because the Bills need a wide receiver number 2 that can stretch the field, that can take pressure off of Stephon Diggs, that can make life easier for Josh Allen. And if they can hit on that in this year's draft in their first round, this offense, maybe you won't need a great defensive performance come playoff time because the Bills can come out and say, we're going to score 38 points. You need to score 39 to be able to beat us in this playoff matchup. And I'm looking at this year's draft, and, there's going to be a run on quarterbacks early. I would guess maybe 4 off the board by the time the Bills pick. This is the deepest offensive tackle draft in some time, so there's going to be a run there. You just have to hope that leads to 1 or 2 of these great wide receivers falling down the draft board because it's a deep wide receiver draft. But, right now I'm looking at Troy Franklin out of Oregon, a guy that can really hurt you downfield with some deep speed. Brian Thomas Jr. out of LSU. Those are 2 guys that I think realistically are going to be in Buffalo's range. The Bills could move up a few picks here or there to get one of those 2 guys if they had to. It's not unrealistic. They're not going to get a Marvin Harrison Jr. as nice as that would be. These are the guys that they're going to be looking at, and these guys could be day one difference makers for Buffalo.
All right, Ryan, so that's what you think they should do, but what do you really think they will do?
I really think they're going to go wide receiver.
Come on. Really?
I'm telling you.
They invested in wide receiver last year. Dalton Kincaid was a first-round wide receiver.
And after that run on wide receivers, I think the Bills are really happy that they did go with Kincaid and the production that he had and how he looks. But, yeah, now you go get a true wide receiver, a number 2 that can maybe emerge as a number 1 here because Stephon Diggs, he's on the wrong side of 30. He showed some signs of slowing down this year. So, for me, if I'm Brandon Beane, that's the one area that they haven't invested a high pick in under his regime. And you go out and you get that guy for Josh Allen and all of a sudden, and for obviously Joe Brady too, let him find someone that he thinks would be a great fit in his system. And I think this offense can really get going and get this team off to a good start next year.
We're talking to Ryan Talbot, NewYorkUpstate.com. I think the draft is so important, Ryan, because, well, I don't know if you're going to be able to backfill everything you need to here in terms of free agents. The cap is very tight. So Josh Allen, revising his contract, that seems like a given. What are some of the other moves you think Bills fans should kind of brace for the Bills to get compliant here in March?
Yeah, they need to look at a lot of their players that they currently have under contract and decide, are you comfortable, restructuring their deals, which more or less just kind of means they're going to be locked in for the entirety of their deal. So Deion Dawkins coming off of a career year, you can do that. You can go to Stephon Diggs, see if he is willing to do that. It's tough, though. Like you said, with this cap situation, there are certain contracts where there's not a ton of wiggle room. Von Miller, you want this contract over at the end of the year, so you probably just want to leave that one alone for better or worse. You could look at cutting some players like a Tre'Davious White, for instance, but that'd be such a tough cut. One, there is some dead cap there. Whether you do it pre-June 1st, post-June 1st, but you could also free up about $6 million in cap space in cutting him. But that was the first pick of the Sean McDermott era. So are you willing to move on from that? Do you think he could show signs of coming back? And then all of a sudden, if he does show signs of being the player he once was, you have a really good 1-2 punch with him and Russell Douglas. But in addition to restructuring, you can extend a Russell Douglas. That's a good example of a player that you could extend for a few years, lower his cap hit, and find a few other players like that you would say, okay, we want him here for the long term, and we can make that, that 2024 number go down. Because the beauty of this is the cap's going to keep going up now. I know that Brandon Beane's plans obviously kind of hit a roadblock during those COVID years where the cap was affected and it didn't go up the percentages the Bills thought that it was going to. And now it's kind of bouncing back in terms of how much it goes up by every year. So if there's a guy that can figure it out for the time being, make sure they're competitive for this year, and then maybe in a healthier spot the following season, it's Brandon Beane.
Speaking of Brandon Beane, I mean, he's said it now for multiple years in a row that don't expect the big splash in free agency. Now, one year he said it, and he actually did go out and make a splash in Von Miller. But last year, guys like Connor McGovern, Deontay Hardy, Trent Sherfield, those were the kind of names that we got. Now, McGovern turned out to be fantastic through the course of a long season. Can we expect those kind of free agent signings, or do you think that Brandon Beane might not be showing all his hands in terms of who he might be targeting to go out there and get in free agency? Because there's plenty of big names that are going to be available.
Yeah, I actually believe them. I don't think they're going to make that Von Miller caliber type of deal. And I don't mean the $120 million. I mean like a premier free agent. Now, the beauty of free agency the past few years is there have been some bigger name players that have sat on the market for quite a while and almost had to settle for a figure that they probably weren't anticipating on a one-year deal. So maybe the Bills are patient and it pays off and they can sign a few guys that they didn't think they'd be able to, but I don't see the Bills being big spenders on those first few days of free agency. They're going to target a few guys in that middle tier and probably try to lock them down. But, no, they're not going to be in on some of those big names.
Ryan, gosh, I mean, what's next year? We got Senior Bowl. We got the Pro Bowl. I mean, wait, are we expecting Diggs to talk maybe this coming week? I mean, are we still concerned about Steph Diggs here? Last year was some off-season issues. I think this is fair to say.
I think they're definitely in a better spot at the end of this year than they were last year. And obviously there must be frustration with how this season ended once again. But it felt like there must have been something there with the coaching staff, too, that they had to kind of get on the same page. I think he really did like what he saw from Joe Brady down the stretch of the season. There was a clip of him in one game where I think it was Inside the NFL showed it after one of the Bills wins. He's like, oh, this is a great play, like the design on the tablet. And you can tell that he's probably excited to have an off season with Brady where Brady can really try to figure out ways to get him the ball. Because, again, this was not his offense that he took over. It was Ken Dorsey's system, and I know it wasn't a great fit in terms of Diggs' production, but I think that Joe Brady is really going to emphasize how can I get the ball to this team's top playmaker, appease him, but also make sure that this offense is spreading it around to your Dalton Kincaids, to a number one draft pick, to James Cook and company. So, it's a tough task, but I think Joe Brady's going to be up for it, and I think Stephon Diggs is up for the challenge as well.
Can I hit you with some rapid fire here as far as Buffalo Bills pending free agents and whether or not you think they stay or they go?
Sure.
Gabe Davis.
Gone.
Micah Hyde.
Retired. Gone.
Tyrell Dodson.
Back on a pretty reasonable deal.
Dane Jackson.
I think he'll be back for depth.
AJ Epineza.
He's the one DN that I would target, but I could see the production the last 2 years maybe pricing him out. So I'm going to say gone, but he's my probably top chance of coming back among the edge rushers.
Taylor Rapp.
I'm going to say back. I think he played well toward the stretch of the season and has some comfort in the system.
Trent Sherfield.
Gone.
Damian Harris. Forgot about him.
Gone.
Wow. Okay. Backup quarterback. Kyle Allen.
Gone. The Bills, it doesn't matter who the Bills put in that spot. I would actually like them to use one of their picks this year to maybe draft someone that late that they think they could develop because, if Josh Allen were to go down, I don't care if it's Kyle Allen, and I don't care if it was Mitch Trubisky, whoever these backups have been, they're not going to be able to salvage the season.
One last one here, and this comes by the way of X. Chris writing in at our handle, The Fan Rochester. What about Trey White moving to safety? We've kicked this around, and I guess that would be an expensive move at safety, but I guess it ultimately comes down to how healthy Trey White is. But do you even think you'd even consider, or the Bills would consider, a move like that, Ryan?
I think Trey White would have to come all the way back from this injury to see how he's feeling, to see how he cuts, how he moves. I mean, we've seen many cornerbacks in the NFL as they've gotten older transition to safety. And, Trey White's not necessarily old, but 2 significant injuries as of late might not give him the same explosiveness, the same coverage ability. So I could potentially see it. The Bills have done this with younger guys in training camp where they're cross-training him. But I have to wait and see on that one.
Hey, just want to get your quick reaction before we let you go, Ryan, because we're hearing news from Jeremy Fowler of ESPN that former Bills defensive coordinator Leslie Frazier is interviewing with the Dolphins. Your thoughts?
Yeah, I hope he lands on his feet somewhere. I think that he's earned the right to get another job elsewhere. Obviously, things here in Buffalo, he needs to take a step back, and there's just not a spot for him now. So even though they're a division rival, I'd be really happy to see Leslie get a job somewhere because he is a great coach and a great person.
Ryan, it's the off season, but it's never an off season for you and Matt. So what can we look forward to in terms of the Shout podcast and what we can read here at NewYorkUpstate.com?
Yeah, we have one episode this week on Saturday from Wingnut, so we're looking forward to that one. And then we'll get back into the mode of doing 2 or 3 episodes per week. And you're right. I mean, we're going to start talking free agency. We're going to talk Senior Bowl. We're going to talk draft. So it's the off season now. So that's going to be our main target going forward.
Ryan, enjoy your week, man. Thank you so much for the time. Really appreciate you.
Hey, thanks, guys.
There he is. Ryan Talbot, NewYorkUpstate.com. Stopping by the sports bar, talking some Buffalo Bills.
Boy, Leslie Frazier. How many places is he interviewed now? I think he's the guy you want to bring in to talk to, but I'm hoping he finds a job.
9 times.
I'm making that up.
You're making that up. It just feels like it.
Yeah, no, I'd be curious to see if he does land somewhere. Nice that he's interviewing. Good that he's interviewing. Don't like that he's interviewing with the Dolphins, but I don't know. I don't know that I see him getting a job, man. I really don't. I kind of hate that I said that just now because I love Leslie Frazier. Love that guy coaching.
Danger. I just got a text. I'm putting this out to you and everybody else. I don't know how to respond to this.
Well, I can tell you how to respond to it.
Okay. Well, I want to be polite. Jay Binkley.
So what you're saying is you don't know how to be polite.
Well, sometimes when you text somebody back, it can kind of come off as curt because I like Binkley. Binkley is a friend.
No.
If you notice here in the sports bar, okay, after that loss, we haven't had Binkley on for a reason. I think you're tapped out. If I'm feeling tapped out in this, lots of people are feeling tapped out in this. Jay Binkley just write him in, hey, you want me to call in? No! Okay, so we're on the same page there. He's not banned. I just don't want to talk to him.
You want to call in, so what? So you can tell us how much your S doesn't stink? So you can rub our noses in the dominance of the Kansas City Chiefs?
Well, you guys don't understand.
So you can tell us how we gave away the pick that led to the greatest quarterback of all time? Is that why we want him on the show? The answer is no. No! Emphatically. And I love Binkley. Politely decline.
We politely decline.
And maybe we will have you on next week leading up to the Super Bowl just to get caught up on the headlines. Not to talk about anything recent. Not to talk about them going into Baltimore and beating the Ravens as the 1 seed. Not them beating the Bills. We don't want to relive any of that. No! We're just coming to grips with the reality that everybody in the AFC is playing for second place. That's a hard thing to come to grips with.
This feels like New England all over again.
Yeah.
You can't get past that team. Even though they're not in the division, it's like, oh.
Everybody wants to talk about how stacked the AFC is. The reality is, if you're not Kansas City, you're playing for second place.
So, again, because sometimes I lack, some tact. I just can't say no thanks. What would be?
We're good for today, Jay.
Good today.
But let's try and get you on at some point next week closer to the big game, if that's cool.
Oh, no!
He's listening, isn't
listening.
he? Oh, now we don't have a show. Go ahead,
all right,
Jay.
Go ahead. Go ahead.
We're running late, but quickly we can get you on for just a couple few. How are you, Jay? I imagine you're doing just fine.
Yeah, this is Rick in Rochester. I want to talk about the Buffalo Bills and how the Kansas City Chiefs owned them in the draft. Because they tried to get Trent McDuffie, who's now a first-team All-Pro, but they weren't able to do it. And then they weren't. And then they gave us Mahomes.
This guy.
Oh,
this guy.
Just kidding, guys. What's up?
You have
we're listening.
balls the size of Alpha Centauri to come into enemy territory, rub our noses in it. This guy. I kind of respect it. I kind of dig it. I kind of respect it, Jay.
Well, I'm disappointed. I was listening to you guys. I was listening to the show. I was listening to the draft talk you had on these wide receivers. I do, do a draft podcast here in Kansas City on our station, and we talk about the receivers all the time. I would welcome the people in Buffalo and Rochester to listen to our podcast. 610 Sports, your sister station, and they can hear us talk about receivers all the time.
Well, back of the line, Jay, because you're going to be picking 32nd or 31st unless you want to trade up and get past Buffalo. So
they have a way of doing that. I don't know if you know that they can do that. They've done it in the past with,
we take care of Buffalo.
Relative success, I want to say. They've traded up with relative success.
I love that tweet by Buffalo Bills that's still out there from April 27, 2017. It says, "Pleasure doing business with you, Chiefs," on the Patrick Mahomes trade. Pleasure. Buffalo thought they got over on the Chiefs, and they're the player they traded away 4 out of 5 Super Bowls.
Jay, you're on real.
To be on this week with you guys.
Real thin ice right now, buddy.
You guys.
Real thin ice. I mean, right now, real thin, like close to ban.
No.
We're getting there. This is close to a ban. I mean, the bouncers are at the door right now, licking their chops, wondering why we let this guy into the sports bar.
Jay, you've congratulations. You have crossed over into New England territory, so you can take that as a compliment. But it's
fellas. I thought we were close, man. What's up with this? You guys said you would have me on after the game. I waited for the call last week, waited for the text, didn't hear from you. Chiefs make the Super Bowl. I thought, I was just going to call in as a caller. And I didn't realize you guys had caller ID and knew who I was exactly. But
listen,
I was just going to call you guys, see how you're doing.
Rick from Rochester, listen to me. Listen.
Okay.
Next week we'll have you on. We'll talk a little bit about the big game that the Bills are not playing in. But you're on notice, pal. Okay, we've only had to ban somebody once from this show. We don't want to have to do it a second time.
Why would you guys ban me?
I kind of respect it.
Why would you ban me?
Using a fake name, an alias. Rick and Rochester.
I thought we were
not
all
Rick and
one
Rochester.
I thought we were all one big AFC family.
Jay, okay, I went on your show game day, 2:00 before. Tell everybody. Who did I pick?
You picked the Kansas City Chiefs. 100% you did. I mean, you were honest about it. You gave your prediction. You said the Chiefs by 24. And
no, I
thought
did
it was a little
not.
too much. I thought it was a little too much, but that's what you said.
Jay, it's
I'm kidding.
Hey, man.
But you did pick the Buffalo and Chiefs.
Enjoy the ride, dude. I mean, like, we only can watch with envy because you've got the best quarterback and you've got the best team and you keep winning. And we've been saying it all afternoon that anybody not named Kansas City is playing for second place in the AFC. And it's a little bit frustrating. We love you, buddy. I would never ban you from the sports bar.
No, I know, guys. It was such a down season for the most part. I mean, the Chiefs have taken everything to heart. They've got that chip on their shoulder. I mean, things weren't good this year. We talked, throughout the year, and things weren't looking good for the team. They had to kind of find themselves who and what they were, and it wasn't the greatest of seasons offensively. But what did I tell you guys before the season began? I said this is the best defense Mahomes has ever had. I said this team's going to be led by I told you guys that from day one.
True. Absolutely.
Yeah, and now you see it.
Jay, we got to cut out because we got break coming up here, and we will talk next week at some point. We'll get it on the books, and we'll discuss everything leading up to the Super Bowl here in just under 2 weeks, buddy. Enjoy the ride.
You guys are the best. You guys are the best, and I can't wait for that beer.
Thank you, Jay.
Jay Finkley from our Odyssey Sports sister station, 610 Sports in Kansas City.
This is Peter putting him up to us. Look at this. Peter DMing Binkley. He just putting the idea. You should just have him in. You should call in as a caller. Ha ha.
You know what? Peter did that.
Peter. Suspension?
You're on notice.
Okay.
You're on notice, Peter.
Yeah.
Definitely on notice.
Yeah, you're on probation.
No mention of Peter.
Do it. You'll
no
get
mention
the last.
of Peter through the Super Bowl.
Jay writing back. You producing today? What's the number? He's not a producer. Yeah, I'm actually a fan. I'm not a producer.
We don't have a producer. There is no producer. There's no phone screener. The only reason why you knew that was Jay is because we have caller ID.
I'm like, oh my gosh, we're getting punked by Binkley. We're getting punked by Binkley.
And Peter, you're on notice, pal. All right? You're on notice. How dare you? We don't mention his name through the Super Bowl. I don't care what poll you put out there, Peter. We're not mentioning it.
You put Jay up to that.
Yeah. You're a vapor for the next 2 weeks. We'll address it after the Super Bowl. Can't believe it.
I'm not mad.
I'm Jay Binkley. I'm going to call into the sports bar and rub your noses in it and tell you how great we are and how much you suck. Not how I wanted to go into happy hour. Not going to lie.
No, we got punked by Binkley. And one of our own, Peter, set it all up.
All right. Well, we do have happy hour next. We're extremely late because of that distraction. We will take a break and we will come back with more next in the sports bar. We'll discuss some of these Bills happenings. The Chiefs are not talking about a coaching staff shakeup, but we are today in the sports bar. We'll let you know about what happened with both Eric Washington and Joe Brady and discuss more on that as well here next in the sports bar. You can join us at 866-4326-585, 866-4FAN.
You're listening to
Monty has the secret for the best Valentine's Day gift ever. You ready? Nothing says I love you more than a gift card to the spa at the Del Monte. They may not tell you what they actually want for Valentine's Day, but a gift card from the spa at the Del Monte will show how much you've been paying attention. Gift cards are available for purchase in-store or online at delmontespa.com.
Odyssey has sports for every fan. Keep up with your favorite teams from across the country.
939BF Rochester. The sports leader. 95.7 FM and AM 950. The Fan, Rochester.
Always live on the free Odyssey app.
The Fan, Rochester. Sports update.
Former Bills defensive coordinator Leslie Frazier today interviewing for the position down in Miami to be their DC. One player, one coach that is a DC now in Chicago, Eric Washington, he leaves Buffalo as their defensive line coach. Joe Brady, now the offensive coordinator with the Bills, the interim tag taken off. Steve Tasker offering his thoughts.
We probably won't notice any huge changes as much as the players will notice. Different types of calls, different words, additions in the vocabulary, subtractions from the vocabulary, just an evolution.
Amerks hosts Syracuse on Wednesday. The Sabres are off until February the 6th. Sports is brought to you by GetMyPerks.com. Today get half off to Eaglevale. Plan your spring golfing right now. Get a discount at GetMyPerks.com. Gene Battaglia, the sports leader. The Fan, Rochester.
The Sports Bar with Danger and Battaglia.
And you can doubt the Chiefs. You can dislike the Chiefs. You can disrespect the Chiefs. You're going to have to deal with the Chiefs being the AFC champions for the fourth time in 5 seasons. The Chiefs have the Lamar Hunt Trophy, and they're taking it to Vegas for Super Bowl 58.
Touchdown! San Francisco! And the 49ers are going to the Super Bowl.
Mike Danger.
I'm curious as to who you think is going to hoist the Lombardi. Who's winning the Super Bowl? What's your prediction?
Gene Battaglia.
If the Bills are going to make a change, I'd rather have them make it sooner than later. What are the odds that there's going to be a shakeup?
The Bills made interim OC Joe Brady their full-time offensive coordinator.
Who will be Buffalo's quarterbacks coach? Because that would seemingly be a position that still needs to be filled.
So Eric Washington is moving to Chicago for a promotion. We all want to see Bobby Babbage retained in Buffalo.
95.7 FM and AM 950 The Fan, Rochester.
I blame ourselves, Gino. Welcome to Happy Hour in the Sports Bar. I blame ourselves. We just might be off our game a little bit today. What would provoke one of our regulars, a guy loyal, a guy who's come out to Friday Football Talk Live at 3 Hits, what would provoke him to egg on Jay Binkley to call in the show? It's almost like he needed to wake us up. Are we that down because we watched that game and thought, if the Bills were playing the Ravens, they win that game? Are we that down and out about it today?
I think so. I think that's it.
I just diagnosed it.
Yeah, you diagnosed it. We're all also like a Dave Matthews song. We ate too much, drank too much. We did a little too much yesterday, Danger, enjoying football, and then you pile on. I'm listening to that. I'm listening to the opener. You can disrespect the Chiefs.
Yes.
Who is disrespecting the Chiefs?
Right.
What, you are inventing things in your head.
Right.
That's why the pushback and the Chiefs overload. Nobody is disrespecting you. Congratulations. You won again. You're now officially a dynasty. 4 and 5 years. Hooray. Good for you.
Everybody was saying that the Chiefs, even Jay, who just joined us, was saying this was a down year for Kansas City. Oh, I think you would take a down year being the 3 seed and playing in your 4th Super Bowl in 5 years. I think most people would accept that, take that if that was your down year. What does a good year look like? We're doomed. We're doomed in the AFC. And that's not just Buffalo. That's every team not named Kansas City. We're all playing for second.
The Chiefs made Lamar Jackson look small. Now, you could say Lamar, and he didn't have a great day, but why did you run Edwards and Hill a combined 6 times?
Baffling. You can heap a lot of praise on Todd Monken. He's a good offensive coordinator. He's been great all season. What was that? Terrible. And you saw a team just kind of lose their composure and unravel, very un-Harbaugh-like. But he deserves some of that blame as well. And they got unhinged. Their actions on the sidelines, whether it's punching a bench and cutting your hand or whipping your helmet after an interception, that's on you, man. You threw it into triple coverage. What did you think was going to happen? Just a bad team, bad effort by the Ravens, and makes you think as a Bills fan, yeah, damn it, if we would have been there, we could have beaten that team.
If you weren't with us like 20 minutes ago, would you call it punked? Calling in as Rick from Rochester, it was actually Binkley.
Well, he was listening, and we love Jay Binkley from 610 Sports in Kansas City. Every hero needs a nemesis. If we're your hero, just know that your nemesis is Jay Binkley from 610 Sports in Kansas City. We love him, need him, got to have him. But he remembers. He kept all the receipts.
You realize, like, he's also, I heard you guys talking about wide receiver in the draft. We do a draft podcast here. And then let me remind you, we jumped ahead for O.J. McDuffie.
Yeah.
Yeah, you did.
And let's not forget the best trade up of all.
Jay, what was the general reaction of Chiefs fans a week ago tonight when they ended up trading up to the Bills to select Patrick Mahomes?
Thank you, Buffalo.
What was the Buffalo Bills' reaction to trading out of that pick with the Kansas City Chiefs?
I would have thought that this would have been a tweet that somebody, because you go through your old tweets, right? At least you should. And be
I deleted them, dude.
Yeah.
There's a service out there that lets you. I deleted them. I went in and I paid for a service to clean it up. Just get everything that's old off. It's not worth it to me. I don't need that many people keeping tabs or keeping receipts. I don't need anything coming back to bite me in the ass. But this one is one that the Bills should move on from. It's biting them in the ass today.
Yeah, and we just on our the Fan Rochester X feed, we retweeted this. For our 2017 first-round pick, we received 2017 KC first, 27th. 2017 KC third, 91st. 2018 KC first. Pleasure doing business with you at Chiefs.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And they got Mahomes.
For Trey White, Dawson Knox, and, used that first and you moved up.
Yeah, right. It was all part of a bigger plan. But, yeah, it's hard to imagine when you look at that deal that it could work out any poorly for Buffalo than it did. You got Josh Allen. Yes, you did what you had to do, but you gave up the chance to draft Patrick Mahomes. And that's not to say that Patrick Mahomes would be Patrick Mahomes if he was in Buffalo. We don't know. Nobody knows.
You had Rick Dennison as your first-year offensive coordinator under Sean McDermott. Yeah, I don't think that would have worked out. So everything happens for a reason, as they say. But, yeah, Bink is that guy that, no, not only did I beat you, I'm going to rub your face in a little bit today.
I got to tell you how much my S doesn't stink. Yeah, and I appreciate that. He's bordering on a ban. And Peter, for putting him up to it, you're on notice, pal. You're suspended for 2 weeks. Suspended with no mention. Moving forward. One constant in the NFL is that turnover at offensive coordinator. We don't have Rick Dennison anymore, but now we've got Joe Brady.
Which, okay, is that really news? I guess, the exciting thing here is that you now have a full spring. We talked to Ryan Talbot, and he went back to what did Brady do in Carolina? It was more motion, more this. You can now expand the playbook, and with that, I would think that Joe Brady is going to have a seat at the table when it comes to this whole draft process. Our expectation, Ryan he said, not only is his flag planted, it's got cement in it, like a flagpole.
I think most Bills fans would be that way. Get a wide receiver, get a wide receiver, get a wide receiver. And I think that's great. And I think we all think that's what they should do. But I'm here to tell you, I think they are still going to invest first round on the defense, and specifically on the defensive line.
If you are going to draft a wide receiver in the first round, that receiver someday should be your one. Steph Diggs is going to age out.
Well, he needs to contribute day one. That
too, yeah.
Yeah, he needs to contribute and be on the field day one if you're going to invest in a receiver in round one. And you kind of got that with Dalton Kincaid this year, right?
Oh, my God. That was better than
he was
anybody,
out on the field day one, but it's kind of a slow start to the season, and then he turned it on as the season went on and kind of exceeded expectations. And I would imagine that that's what you would want out of a first-round wide receiver pick, if that's the direction they decide to go.
They have to get starters first, second, and third. Dorian Williams last year, but Osiris Torrance, wow, that went better than expected. Yeah, it is Senior Bowl week. We'll be talking a little more Senior Bowl measurables, all that fun stuff coming up later this week here in the Sports Bar as slowly we start to look to the offseason. And sure, we did talk a little Dan Campbell earlier today, and like we could have the argument either way.
Well, I just think that having the argument, you can have the argument, but if you're expecting Dan Campbell to change who he is, that feels like a fruitless exercise. He's not going to change being the dude. It's what we love about him, right? We clowned on this guy when they got out. We're like, this guy is crazy, talking about biting off kneecaps and taking out hunks of people as you're getting torn down and built back up. That's the personality that the team has taken, and it's gotten them to where they are.
Well, it also, look back at that Dallas-Detroit game. Like, that was the one where, okay, we're going to go for the 2-point conversion at the 7-yard line. What are you doing here? That's not the Dan Campbell, when he decides he's all in. Personally, I think you're not sacrificing your values if you kick the darn field goal. You're going up by 3 scores. It's a mental game too, Danger. But hey, you know what? Good job there. We're still up by 3 scores.
So this is the argument that I've been seeing online today, because so many people want to talk about analytics versus, football guys. Like, football guys, the analytics community exists in football because they're normally guys that wouldn't be able to get jobs in football. I saw that take out there. And the analytics community actually hates that, right? Like, all the analytics do is provide you with the opportunity to make a better decision. And for anybody that wants to say football guy, like, how much of a football guy are you if you're saying, oh, yeah, the analytics here say we should kick, we're going to kick. No, he's not going to kick. He's a football guy. He doesn't want to put the game in the balance on the foot of his kicker. Execute the play that we're calling to perfection, and we'll get the first down, and we'll win the damn game. That's Dan Campbell. That's who he's always been. That's who he's always going to be. And if you think he's going to change, you keep waiting. It might cost him his job someday. It probably will. But it got him to the NFC Championship game. And he didn't take his foot off the gas. He didn't compromise. He didn't change who he was. Did it cost him the game? It was a difference in the game. But it wasn't where the game changed. I don't think that the falling short on those conversions turned the game. I think the game turned on the Gibbs fumble. I thought that was it. And the catch.
The alley-oop catch.
The alley-oop is one that will... You don't see... that. I'll put that up there with the Edelman Super Bowl catch, right? With the Antonio Freeman Monday Night Football catch, where you're like, how? How did he, like, catches that you'll never see? You might be able to see somebody make an Odell Beckham Jr. one-handed kind of catch the way he did with the nose of the ball. But there are just times where you're like, the Edelman catch in the Super Bowl. How? It was practically on the turf, fractions of an inch. This was one of those plays when, if you're a Lions fan, you saw it, you're like, ugh. Maybe it's not our night tonight, boys.
Well, as soon as that game was tied, you know, okay, it's over. You had your opportunity. You were up by multiple scores. Both games were entertaining yesterday. And nobody wants to hear this. This is going to be a good Super Bowl matchup. It's just that we have, as we learned from Binkley and others today, we have some serious Chiefs fatigue, where I think we veered off here into Patriot territory. Like, okay, you're a dynasty now. Congratulations. Not much new we can say about this. It's that when you bring it back home and you realize, wow, Bills would have beaten the Ravens yesterday. I truly believe that. I think that Josh Allen would have gone in there, except you couldn't get by the team the week before. Like, the Bills, in my mind, second best team as it ended up in the AFC. It doesn't matter. The Bills could never figure out a way to get past New England until Tom Brady left. You've got to be kidding me. Like,
we got to go through this again?
We got to go through this again. We can't get by in the AFC until that guy leaves. Well, okay, we're talking like a decade here.
I just think if you're going to beat that guy, if you're going to beat that team, you have to play as close to a perfect game as you possibly can. And the Bills have a perfect game this year. I think the perfect game this year was probably the Dallas game, right? Miami was kind of like back and forth at first, but like the Dallas game felt like
you were just mauling them.
That was a perfect game, right? Like, you need to play that kind of game. And you beat Kansas City in the regular season, but there's a little bit of an asterisk there, right? I mean, like, it was a penalty. He was offside, but like, it's that game. It's that reason why I just can't root for Mahomes. Not this season, at least. I need some sort of rehabilitation tour where I don't have the lasting image of him being a whiny bitch after losing to the Bills during the regular season. then maybe I can get back on board with Mahomes. He's fantastic. He's the best ever. Somebody might want to put a body on Kelsey. I mean, the touchdown catch I thought was pretty good coverage by Kyle Hamilton, but man, the guy just running free everywhere. And that was against the Bills as well. Like, what? Guys, what are we doing? Like, can somebody keep an eye on 87? Can we get a body on 87? Possible? No? Okay.
That's my hope. Maybe they overcame losing Tyreek Hill, but you know what, Travis? Go be with your girl. Be happy.
Retire.
Tour the world.
Yeah.
Yes, you've won your rings. You're going to win another.
Careful what you wish for, because they'll just restock, retool. Tyreek Hill leaves. Oh, they're going to be down. No, they won the Super Bowl. I'm not saying that losing any piece of this team short of Patrick Mahomes is going to change any outcome. Back to Dan Campbell for a second as he spoke on those fourth down conversion attempts.
I just felt really good about us converting and getting our momentum and not letting them play long ball. They were bleeding the clock out. That's what they do. And I wanted to get the upper hand back, and it's easy hindsight, and I get it, I get that, but I don't regret those decisions, and that's hard. It's hard because we didn't come through. It wasn't able to work out, but I don't, and I understand the scrutiny I'll get. That's part of the gig, man. But we this didn't work out.
How much do you love that guy?
Tough part for Lion fans. This is what you realize. Like, now you have to climb the mountain all over again. Yeah. You're not going to be able to sneak up on teams this next year. Green Bay will be better. I mean, that's the tough part of this. Like, all the work just to get back to that point.
Yeah. I love that. And I love that guy. I'm jealous. I wish Dan Campbell was my head coach. Like, I would love for that guy. What he personifies, what he brings. Like, I know he's not everybody's cup of tea because he's a football guy and he's not as polished as some of these guys.
He sets a tone, and keep this in mind for all the hiring. How many years did Dan Campbell serve as a coordinator? 0. None. They hired a guy who they thought can develop and just be a leader. A leader. Mm-hmm. Is the guy a leader? And so many times you get these coordinators and then they don't know how to lead and we make fun of them.
Right. Well, let's look right down the sideline to his offensive coordinator, Ben Johnson, who now is free to interview in person with either Seattle or Washington. And this is the part of Ben Johnson that nobody is talking about. This is what would give me all the pause in the world. Ben Johnson cut his teeth and learned. He studied under Adam Gase. He's a disciple of Adam Gase. The Adam Gase coaching tree.
For everybody watching on YouTube and Twitch, I'm just going to go up to the camera and look at it like,
You have your wide eyes like you look like you're murdering pets. That's Ben Johnson. I don't know. I mean, that would give me some cause for concern. I don't care how good he's been as an offensive coordinator, but he's probably going to get one of those two gigs, right? And so now for Dan Campbell, the realization that what you said, it might not get this good for Detroit ever again. Like, you might have to wait. This is where we see what kind of a coach Dan Campbell is, because now you've got some adversity. You've had this continuity and you've had this plan in place. It got you this far, but it didn't get you that far. And now you're going to have to find a new offensive coordinator and start all over again. I love it, though, man. I love his tone. You could tell losing hurt him more, as much, if not more, than it hurt his team. That those decisions, he knows the scrutiny is going to come, and he doesn't care. I got to take it. It's part of the gig.
I don't think Lion fan is upset with his decisions at all.
I don't think so. I don't think they should be, because that's who he is. He is the dude. The dude abides. He is going to stay true to himself. Kicker. We're not going to have a kicker win this game for us. We're not. What are we about? We're about football. Get out there and punch somebody in the mouth. Get a first down. And they couldn't do it. And San Francisco was a pretty good team as well. That was an entertaining Sunday, and if you're watching on the stream, at The Fan Rochester on YouTube, our channel Also streaming on Twitch at The Fan Rochester. Both Gene and I are a little worse for the wear today. I think a little excessive yesterday. The fast food feast at my brother-in-law's house. Oh, my God. Oh, why? How many calories? How many? I have no idea.
You're not doing this every weekend. It's okay every once in a while to cut loose like
I
that.
know,
So.
I know. But the guilt now, the day after guilt, like I did that to myself. Why did I do that to myself?
Yeah, but it's a lot of aqua today here in the sports bar.
Hydrating. All right, let's get to a round of shots next.
Yeah, so let's talk about. It's going to be interesting. Well, Wednesday night's got something different that you can go check out for the Emmerich game. We will explain there. NBA tonight, 12 games. Compare that to the NHL, which I don't know if they realize that football is ending.
No, dude, I can't wait. Nashville and Ottawa. It's the matchup I've been waiting for all season long. I'm glad that the NBA or that the NHL decided to schedule it the Monday after Championship Sunday.
Ottawa's in last place of the conference or second from last?
Yeah, I mean, I think so. Yeah.
Well, and what do you think Super Bowl hotels are going for? Like on the Strip right now.
Now we're talking. We're talking.
This is some crazy money being thrown around.
We'll get to a round of shots next in the sports bar. Your calls as well at 866-4FAN, 585-866-4326. Happy Super Bowl to all who celebrate. From FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook, I'm Mike Danger for FanDuel Sportsbook, the official partner of 95.7 The Fan. And if you're like me, Super Bowl Sunday, much like Championship Sunday, all about scoring the best seat on the couch, grabbing your favorite snacks, placing some super bets. All right, we know that the Niners are -1 right now, -1 favorites against the Chiefs. Who do you like as we get closer? We'll be talking about it with the experts, and we'll be making those bets on FanDuel with so many ways for you to end the season with a W or 2 or 3. Not only can you bet on who's going to win Super Bowl 58, but FanDuel also has bets for which players score a touchdown, how many points will be scored, and so much more. New customers, join today. You'll get $200 in bonus bets if your first bet of $5 or more wins. Just visit FanDuel.com/Mike to sign up. That's FanDuel.com/Mike, M-I-K-E. Make every moment more with FanDuel, an official sportsbook partner of the NFL. 21 plus and physically present in New York. $10 first deposit required. Bonus issued is non-withdrawable bonus bets that expire 7 days after receipt. See terms at sportsbook.fanduel.com. For help with a gambling problem, call 1-877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY 467-369.
You're listening to the Sports update.
Bills in need of a new defensive line coach as Eric Washington, the new defensive coordinator in Chicago. Also news from today, Leslie Frazier interviewing with the Miami Dolphins for their vacancy at defensive coordinator. Joe Brady is the new OC with the Bills. Well, his interim tag taken off. Chris Brown offering his thoughts.
We saw some changes to Buffalo's offense. The Bills ran the ball more. They increased their time of possession. Josh ran more and threw fewer interceptions. Question now, though, who will be Buffalo's quarterbacks coach? Because that would seemingly be a position that still needs to be filled.
Betting line for the Super Bowl currently at the 49ers -1. Sports brought to you by GetMyPerks.com. Today get half off to Eaglevale. Plan your spring golfing right now at a discount thanks to GetMyPerks.com. Gene Battaglia, the sports leader, 95.7 FM and AM 950. The Fan, Rochester.
Rochester's home for live sports and the best sports talk anywhere. The sports leader, 95.7 FM and AM 950. The Fan, Rochester.
There's a great spirit about them, and there's a certain toughness that they have to where they don't get down on each other. They challenge each other. They support each other, and it's been that way through the highs and lows. I mean, nothing's changed.
All right, now tell me that again. With those nuggies. Chiefs head coach Andy Reid. Round of shots in the sports bar.
Maybe that's part of it too. Like every commercial break.
Yeah. It's Chiefs fatigue.
Yeah.
No question.
That's it.
It's not that we disrespect them, like the dumb play-by-play guy was saying. Like, nobody's
You can disrespect them.
Nobody's disrespecting the Chiefs. Who's doing play-by-play? Is LeBron doing play-by-play now for the Kansas City Chiefs? Where's this coming from?
Get over yourself.
Get a grip, dude.
Devin Levi is down with the Amerks. I mean, the Sabres want to get him some work, right? Buffalo not going 9 days in between games.
9 times.
Yeah, this is their version of the bye week here. Meanwhile, there are 3 games for the Amerks this week. Wednesday night home against Syracuse, and then 2 up in Laval, which actually is a homecoming for Levi. He's from Montreal. Amerks, they held 7 in a win over the Rocket on Saturday. We'll talk to head coach Seth Appert tomorrow on the Sports Bar.
Yeah, looking forward to that. By the way, just a quick programming note. Gene will be on assignment tomorrow afternoon before doing some play-by-play for St. John Fisher.
At Keuka College, where they have a beach on that campus. Never been to that campus.
There's a beach?
There's a beach on Keuka College's campus.
What is the beach? What body of water does the beach lead to?
Keuka Lake.
Oh, Keuka Lake.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. Okay,
Yeah.
So there's a beach, but how?
It's not relevant to basketball.
Is it a selling point if you're going to Keuka College that there's a beach?
You got to have more than that, I would think, to go down there.
I just know like a lot of kids that like end up going to school in Florida. Like the big selling point is 1, it's Florida, but 2, like the campus is so new. Or Tampa is the Tampa. Oh my God. Keuka College has a beach. Gene will be doing play-by-play from the beach.
From the beach tomorrow.
In his European Speedo and swim cap.
Speaking of European Speedo, don't want to see Luka Doncic in one, but remember, he got the previous game, he got someone ejected for making a fat joke.
Yeah.
Maybe everybody should make a fat joke there because he played like a man possessed, going out for 73. Dallas currently sitting in the A spot in the Western Conference. The Mavs tonight hosting Orlando. NBA, very smart. One of 12 games tonight in the NBA. Hey, football fans, come on back to the NBA. The Knicks are in Charlotte, the doubleheader on NBA TV, Suns and Heat. Sixers are out west in Portland.
Yeah, that is smart. And Luka putting up 73 is something you can't take away from him. I don't think it matters. I don't think the Mavs are real. I think they're going to continue to kind of like fart around here in the play-in tournament if they make it at all. I'm not going to forget that they didn't make the play-in tournament last year. And Luka was a part of that team last year, and Kyrie was a part of that team last year.
They tanked it. Like, they literally did not want to do it.
Right.
They were sitting players down this. No, we don't want to be in this playing thing.
So dumb.
But you know what? Give Adam Silver,
right.
Yeah, an extension there. Patrick Laine of the Columbus Blue Jackets has entered the NHL Player Assistant Program for an undisclosed issue. Laine has been out since December 14th with a clavicle injury. It's our second Monday without football, and how does the NHL take advantage?
Oh, yeah, let's contrast that for the NBA with the NHL. Go ahead.
So, NBA, 12 games tonight. NHL, one.
But
it's got to be a good one, right?
It's got to be a marquee. Like,
yeah, it's like Boston.
Give me like Connor McDavid against somebody.
Yeah, or at least the Rangers and. It's Nashville at Ottawa. Even Dan Drummond, our lone Rochesterian, who's a Sens fan, he's like, no, that can't be. I'm not watching this.
Beaten down. Just a beaten down Sens fan. So quickly on Line A, this is how they say in the NHL that one of our players is in rehab, right?
That's what we are led to believe.
I mean, and that's fine. You can word it however you want to word it, but because as a league you have a lack of drug policy, good on Line A for discovering, hey, maybe I have a problem and I need to get myself right. If he's checking himself into that, or if he's entered into it, I should say. Don't know if he checked himself into it, but yeah, he hasn't been the same player for some time. I wonder about the NHL, man. I wonder about some of these guys. I feel like Mr. Hand in Fast Times at Richmond High. What are you guys, all on dope? Like some of these guys with no drug policy, kind of hold them accountable to their own devices. Are these guys taking advantage of that? Some of them maybe, some of them not. I'm glad Liney's getting help.
I don't know. There was a player who his heart stopped on the bench, and we just acted like that was normal.
Right.
Yeah. Interesting strategy by the Detroit Tigers. They gave infielder Colt Keith a 6-year, $28 million extension. If you've never heard of Colt Keith, don't worry. I never heard of him either. He played for Toledo last season. He batted .287 with 13 home runs. He has yet to make his major league debut, but here you go, kid. Here's $28 million. The Tigers believe he's so sure that it's such a safe bet to be their second baseman. That's why they bought out the future years. He's under contract now through 2029.
Colt Keith is going to make for a great Chili's alias for me when I go in to get my chips and salsa the next time. Colt Keith. Yeah, use that Chili's alias before he becomes a household name in Detroit.
No, you should go in as Jay Binkley or somebody else like that.
Another good one, yeah.
Yeah. Finally, if you're thinking, hey, we don't have Super Bowl tickets, well, let's just go out there. Let's have some fun. Wow, and we'll walk around and we'll just take it in. You might not want to do that when I tell you these prices. Be prepared to pay here. Hotel rooms, Super Bowl week, through the roof.
Yeah.
Now, at the bottom of the barrel is the Excalibur at $688.
That's the cheapest.
Bellagio, $17.50 a night. Area, $22.50 a night. Caesars, big old Caesars, sold out. But in the Caesars family, you can stay across the street at Paris for $16.32.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, imagine if the Bills got in. People would have to be taking out a second mortgage.
Now, I'll say this from experience. Going to the Super Bowl is overrated. The game itself is overrated because you're a part of a bigger production and you're surrounded by not fans, but seat fillers and corporates and family and friends. And it's just a different atmosphere than you would get from a normal NFL game. So that part of it I felt like was overrated. But if your team is there and you have the means, you got to go. You got to go. I may never see the Chicago Bears in a Super Bowl again in my lifetime. And I didn't like the outcome of the game, but I have zero regrets for going to that game and investing what I invested to go to that game. Whatever it takes, I'm doing it.
But you, if I remember the story, like you didn't get to take in Super Bowl week and be with other Bear fans. You basically just drove from Orlando down and back. Yeah,
I turned it into a vacation. I don't know. I mean, maybe that's how you manage this because you're not going to stay in Vegas, but maybe you stay somewhere nearby and you come in just for the game. Now, I know Vegas is in the middle of the freaking desert, but do you stay in L.A. and drive to Vegas? Do you I don't know. I mean, I'm not familiar enough with the geography around there other than to know that LA is a drive, but it's no longer than a drive than I did from Orlando to Miami when the Bears were in the Super Bowl.
Look, I'm not Geno Vegas. And yeah, you stay on the strip when you're a tourist. Everybody tells me, go stay off the strip. Like, go off the strip, save your money, then you just go over there at some point. Now, that's the part of the story that was not kind of disclosed. Like, I'm sure those prices are up too, but you could save a little money.
Yeah. Well, I think that is interesting. It's evergreen, really. Every year I feel like we hear about how much Super Bowl tickets cost, how much the town that's hosting, whatever they're going through, like, whether it's Jacksonville not being ready or Minnesota being too cold or New York having snow, whatever it is. Every week every year there's something going on Super Bowl week that
what player is going to be in the nightclub? That's the one.
That's the one. I'm hoping everybody stays safe when they come to town. Radio Row would be something this year. Can you imagine Radio Row in Vegas? The characters that are going to show up because it's Vegas specifically.
I think Rochester has to be on Radio Row one of these years.
Got to make it happen.
Yeah.
All right, we got last call next, where we utter the most dangerous words in all of sports talk radio. We go to the phones. 585-866-4FAN. 866-4326.
Sports leader, 95.7 FM and AM 950 The Fan, Rochester.
I mean, we had some opportunities out there. Just got to take advantage of them. Can't turn the ball over. Fumble, interception, stuff like that. They give them the opportunity to, put points on the board and win the game. We get in that red zone. It's been our touchdown all season. We just got to finish. And
Lamar Jackson not able to get it done against those Kansas City Chiefs. And today, the harsh reality that if you're a team outside of Kansas City, you're playing for second place in the AFC.
It just changes so quickly. I'm looking at all these photos of Ravens locker clean out day. Like, yeah, it comes to a sudden end.
I don't like it. Not a fan. Do like that we had a good conversation with Ryan Talbot earlier today from NewYorkUpstate.com as the Bills coaching staff shuffle is on. Ryan Hickey, his first visit into the sports bar from CBS Sports Radio. Hot Take Hickey was fantastic in the 3 o'clock hour. He'll be a recurring guest.
Yeah, and he now he has his own show. Was it Sunday nights 10 to 2?
Hick at night.
Yeah, Hick at night.
Hick at night. Kind of like it. Ryan was great. And he was commiserating with us. He's a Colts guy. So he's like, yeah, the Chiefs are, what are any of these teams going to be able to do to get past that guy, to get past Mahomes, to get past that team? We'll see. The bummer is, I think, for a lot of Bills fans today, is you watch that game and you think, if the Bills were in that game, you would have given the Ravens hell.
Oh, right. The Super Bowl, we'd be looking at airfare and, my gosh, the hotels are costing this much. Yeah, this was it.
This was the opportunity. You asked for it. You got it. You got Mahomes in Buffalo. You would have beaten Baltimore the way they looked. Couldn't get it done. It's too bad. We're back tomorrow, 3 o'clock. Gino will be on assignment. We'll be checking in with you.
I'll be on the show tomorrow.
Yeah, we'll have you on tomorrow.
From the beach.
We'll also be, Gino will be sunning himself on the shores of Keuka Lake. Seth Appert, Rochester Americans head coach, will join us at his normal time, Tuesday at 4:25. And I'll be joined by the co-host of the Let's Go Duffalo podcast in the free-to-download Odyssey app. That would be Ryan Duffy, making his second visit into the sports bar. Looking forward to getting his thoughts on the end of season here for the Buffalo Bills. Find out what they've been talking about on the Let's Go Duffalo pod. So that starts tomorrow at 3 o'clock, and then we'll have St. John Fisher basketball for you tomorrow evening, starting at 5:30 with Gino on the call from Keuka.
Can't wait.
Have a great night. And we will be back again tomorrow starting at 3. Again, if you missed any of the show, the Odyssey app is your one-stop shop for the sports bar. Search us out, and you can go back and listen to any part of the show that you may have missed for the next 72 hours with Rewind. The JR Sport Brief is next on The Fan Rochester.
It's that time again. We gotta say goodnight.